A Bride for a Bridge. Mary Rouge. Summary. Rob keeps his promise to Walder Free and marries one of his daughters. As the plot implies, it's not very canon compliant, just a cute little love story because why not? Disclaimer, I do not own Game of Thrones or its characters. They belong to GRM. ***** epilogue posted separately. Notes. This first chapter is a copy /paste of chapter 17 of My Theon's Story, Today Was a Fairy Tale, because it is very heavily focused on Rob and the phrase. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Chapter 1, A Bride for a Bridge. Chapter text. They make it to the twins in mid-morning, some several days later. Sansa feels uneasy the moment they arrive, Walder Free and several of his sons standing there to greet her, Rob, and their men. Rob helps her down from Andus and offers her his arm. Sansa takes it quickly, and steps close to him, feeling safer the closer she is to his side. Robb Stark Walder Free says, wasting no time. We were wondering when to expect you. I told you I was coming, Rob says curtly, clearly having no patience for the old man. Yes, well, you may pick a girl and get on with it, the wedding will be in 3 days' time. Rob tenses at that, but he does so subtly that Sansa is sure she's the only one who notices. 3 days is not enough time to choose a bride, she thinks to herself. Very well, Rob says finally. Perhaps you'd like to meet them now, Walder continues. They're all lined up in the Great Hall, and if you're so eager to get on with it, we can have a wedding and a bedding tonight. Perhaps it can wait until later today. Even if we're at the tail end of it, there's still a war going on, some matters we need to discuss. As you wish, Your Grace, Walder answers, over-exaggerating his last words. Come this way. Before Walder can lead them off, Sansa speaks up. If I may, my lord, perhaps I can meet the girls now. I can get a better sense of the girls and which may be best suited for my brother. If it's all right with you, of course. She smiles sweetly, hoping to not get him angry. Walder doesn't look anything more than annoyed. He sighs, and says, fine. He motions over to one of his sons and says, Oliver, lead the king's sister inside so she may meet the girls. He looks back over to Sansa. If you can pick one for him, it will save us all the trouble. Sansa only smiles meekly at that. She turns to Rob, and looks at him reassuringly, before following Oliver inside. My father had us pool together the qualified girls, Oliver told her. All are either his true-born daughters or granddaughters, ages ranging from 10 to 18. He sounds just as disgusted as Sansa feels as he says it, and that gives Sansa a little hope. How many are there? 32. And if you were to dismiss all the girls younger than 15? My brother has no desire for a child bride. Oliver does the math in his head. That would leave 10 girls, milady. 10 is more than suitable to choose from. Oliver looks at her appreciatively. Perhaps not all Freys are bad, Sansa thinks. As you wish, Oliver says. He opens the door to the Great Hall and motions for her to step inside. He follows behind her. All girls 14 and younger are dismissed. Go back to your lessons. Now. Oliver wastes no time in saying. There's lots of commotion and scurrying in the moments to follow as more than 20 young girls leave the room. The remaining 10 stay where they're at, standing in a row in the middle of the room. This is Princess Sansa Stark, sister to the king, both of whom have just arrived. Oliver says. Sansa sees 2 of the girls giddily talk amongst themselves, the rest remain quiet. She would like to meet you all before the king does, so that she may aid the king in his decision for a bride. Oliver looks to Sansa, addressing only her next. How would you like to go about this? I'm not really sure, Sansa confesses. Oliver nods understandingly, then turns back to address the girls. Each of you introduce yourself to the princess, say your name, age, and something else. After which maybe Princess Sansa can spend 10 or so minutes with each of you one-on-one. We'll go oldest to youngest. Wyler, you first. Wyler smiles a somewhat overcompensating smile. She looks at Sansa and says, I'm Wyler, I'm 18, and I would make a perfect queen. Sansa winces at that, and does her best to hide it. She remembers the time when all she wanted was to be queen. How naive she'd been, and shallow too. I'm Walder, the second girl says. I'm 18, and I would make a good queen too. Songza does her best to mask her disdain at the comment. I'm Audrey, the next girl says. I'm 17, and I like to ride horses. Songza smiles at her, appreciative she's giving a genuine fact about herself. She's Rob's age, and she seems sweet. She's pretty too, with long blonde hair and brown eyes. She and Rob would make a pretty pair. The next girl appears to be very quiet. She's got quiet green eyes and honey brown hair. She curtsies to Songza and gives her a genuine, yet small smile. I'm Roslyn. I'm 16. She'll be 17 in 2 moons, Oliver says. And tell the princess about yourself, Ro. I like to read. Roslyn says quietly. Songza hears Wilder and Wyler laugh at her, though they stop when Songza looks her way. The remaining girls introduce themselves, and seem nice enough, if a little annoying and vain. Songza's not sure she can blame them for that though, given who their father/grandfather is. She then goes to meet with them one-on-one. Wyler and Wilder prove to be just as unlikable as Songza suspected they'd be, but she finds it easy to make conversation with Audrey and Roslyn, bonding with each of them over their love for sewing. Songza also finds that Roslyn is not nearly as quiet as she seems, at least not once you get her talking, yet she still is able to remain calm and composed, very dignified and polite. Audrey is quite the chatterbox. Almost as much as Arya used to be, but Songza doesn't find it annoying because it makes her think fondly of her little sister, and it helps that Audrey talks of their common interests. After meeting with the girls, Oliver escorts Songza to her room, which she is happy to find is right next door and connected to Rob's. Her bag has been brought in, and so she takes out her sewing, thinking if she finishes her dress soon it will be ready for the wedding. Hours later, she hears Rob come into his room through the wall that separates them. It's some time before he knocks on her door though. Come in, Songza says, looking up from her stitching. Hey, Rob says, taking a seat next to her. Did you bathe? Songza asks, looking at him as he's freshly shaven and clean. Rob nods. After talking, I spent some time in the training yard with some of Walder Frey's sons. They're terrible fighters, most of them anyway. Songza nods to him, before going back to stitching the petal on one of the remaining Katniss flowers. Rob looks over to what she's working on. It's pretty, he tells her. Songza smiles, thinking of Theon and the flowers. Thank you. I figured if I finished it I could wear it for your wed. Songza stops herself. My wedding, Rob finishes for her. No sense in denying it. Could you make me a doublet as well? With less flowers? Songza laughs. She goes to her bag and pulls out a grey doublet she had made back in Winterfell. She had planned to give it to Rob on his name day, which was in less than 2 weeks, but it could serve as a wedding present. The doublet was covered in silver details along the edges, along with the Stark direwolf in the left corner, right over his heart. She had also embroidered the direwolf larger on the back and turned it around to show him, before handing it over. Rob looked at it, amazed. You really have gotten so good at it. This is perfect. Thank you. He pulls her into a hug, which Songza gladly reciprocates. I met the girls, Songza tells him as they sit back down. I liked a handful of them. There's 2 that I especially liked, but I want you to meet them all first before I say who. Rob nods. I'm supposed to sit with them all at dinner. You'll sit with me too, won't you? Diffuse anything that gets out of hand. Of course. When dinner comes, Songza finds herself sitting across from Rob at a large, round table. Wyler sits to his right, with Wilder on the other side of her, and Audrey sits to his left. Roslyn sits next to Songza's left, and another girl, Minnie, sits at Songza's right. Wilder and Wyler won't stop flirting with Rob. He looks utterly annoyed but can't even get a word in to end it all. He looks to Songza to help, but Songza only shrugs helplessly. Dinner's only just started, it's best to let them get it a little out of their system so they don't cause a scene. Well, a bigger scene. They are certainly both putting on a show for Rob's attention. Minnie is talking with the girl next to her, so Songza turns to Roslyn, who is sitting quietly, staring at her food. Are you not hungry, Lady Roslyn? Songza asks. I'm merely nervous. Wyler says I eat weirdly and I'd hate to make my father mad by embarrassing him in front of your brother. Songza notices a lot of things as she says this. Firstly, Wyler was rude to her. Second, Roslyn is afraid of her father, and thirdly, that she referred to Rob as her brother, and not the king, as if she is actually able to separate the two things, unlike most of her sisters / nieces. I'm sure she was saying that just to be mean. Sangza whispers quietly. Eat. The chicken is actually really good in the soup. Sangza nods at her one bowl and takes a bite. Roslyn does the same, though much slower, being careful to not make a sound as she eats. You said you liked to read. What book are you currently reading? A book on old northern history and customs. I want to be well prepared if she looks at Rob. If I am to travel soon. Sangza looks over to Rob, and sees him talking with Audrey now, while Wyler and Walder try to regain his attention. Yes, well, should you have any questions, feel free to ask me or Rob. We love our home and would be happy to talk about it. Thank you. Roslyn says, looking back over to her. I love your dress, by the way. Did you make it? Sangza looks down at her dress. It's the purple one she made with the fabric Theon bought her. She smiles when she thinks of him. Yes, I did, not too long ago. Did you make yours? Roslyn's dress is an olive green, that really brings out her eyes. It's covered with small, embroidered daisies at the bottom of the skirt, and a large, fabric daisy at the center of the chest. Yes, Roslyn tells her. Sangza goes on to tell her about the yellow dress she's making. When they both get distracted, the whole table does, by what Wyler says. Audrey and Rob had appeared to be deep in conversation, but that all ended when Wyler said, "Goodness, Audrey, don't be such a slut. Did you know, Your Grace, she has a boy she's seeing? And now here she is trying to seduce you. It's despicable." All the color drains from Audrey's face. She straightens up immediately, leaning away from Rob, before standing up and practically running out of the room, clearly on the verge of tears. The entire table is silent for a moment, though it appears no one else had heard. Wyler sighs pointedly, before saying, "Goodness. She is always so dramatic. Believe me, Your Grace, you do not want her." Rob is about to say something when Roslyn beats him to it. When she speaks, Rob looks at her surprised, as if he hadn't really noticed her until now. "She's not the one putting on a faked," Roslyn says. "Or the one with her breasts practically falling out of her dress." She turns from looking at Wyler to looking at Rob. "Believe me, Your Grace, my sister Audrey is the best pick of all your choices." Wyler gawks at this. "I'm sorry," Roslyn says, annoyance and anger apparent in her voice. "Did I ruin your moment?" At that, she turns back to Rob and curtsies to him, then turns to Sangza and does the same. "Excuse me, but I must go check on my sister." At that, she walks off, her small, quiet steps contrasting her loud words from just a moment ago. Sangza looks to Rob, and watches as his eyes follow Roslyn out of the room. The rest of dinner is very quiet and awkward. Rob makes it very apparent he does not want to hear anything Wyler or Walder have to say, and all other girls seem too scared to talk. When dinner is finally over, Oliver walks over and asks to escort Sangza back to her room. Sangza gratefully accepts, as Rob is now being stopped by Walder. Oliver offers her his arm, and when she takes it, he leads her back to her room. "Where did Audrey and Roslyn go?" he asks once they're in the hallway. Wyler said some not so nice things about Audrey, and then Roslyn left to comfort her. Sangza says. Oliver looks as if that's what he expected. "Can I ask you something?" Sangza asks. "Of course, milady. I don't mean to gossip, but Wyler says Audrey's seeing someone. Is that true?" Oliver takes a deep breath, and then nods. "One of our stable boys. They are practically engaged, the two of them. Only father told her to drop him when he heard the king was coming. She cried about it for days. I told her that she's fine as long as the king doesn't pick her, she can marry Oscar when you and his grace leave. But father knows that Audrey is one of the only more agreeable options. He said if she purposely turned the king away he'd kill Oscar. So Audrey's been forced to charm him." "How terrible!" Sangza exclaims. "That's my father for you. You know, Roslyn and Audrey are only 10 months apart. My mother, she's the same for Wyler, Walder, Audrey, Roslyn, and I. She died in childbirth with Roslyn. I can't imagine how hard that must be." Sangza tells him, patting his arm. I was only 6 at the time, so I didn't think too much of it. I missed my mother, of course. I think that's why Wyler and Walder are so mean to Roslyn. They think she killed our mother. And they hate Audrey because Audrey doesn't blame her for it. But at least they have each other. Yes, Sansa agrees. At least there's that. Could you take me to her? Audrey. I want to make sure she's okay. Oliver hesitates. I'll go check on her. If she's alright, I'll have her and Roslyn come visit with you. If not, I think she'd rather be alone. Of course, Sansa says, slightly embarrassed. Thank you. Oliver drops her off at her room and then walks off. Sansa goes to her sewing and continues to work on her flowers, waiting for the girls to show up, should they want to. 10 minutes later, there's a knock on her door. Come in, Sansa calls out. Roslyn walks in, her own embroidery in hand. Audrey was too tired, she wanted to sleep. But my brother said you wanted to talk, so I figured we could do some embroidery together. Sansa smiles at her, and so Roslyn walks over and sits down. What are you working on? Sansa asks. It's a dress for my little sister, Roslyn says. Her name day is soon and she's always said that the only dresses she gets are hand-me-downs. It's a light blue frock with white flowers and green leaves embroidered about the skirt. And you? Is this the dress you were telling me about? It's very pretty. The two girls engage in easy conversation after that, and are laughing so intently they don't notice when Robb walks in. It's his fault, really, for he hadn't bothered knocking. Sang, you will not believe that Walder Frey had the audacity to. He stops when he sees Roslyn. His cheeks pinking slightly. My lady, he says, giving a small bow. Roslyn stands up and curtsies politely. Your Grace, she says. I can leave if you'd like. No. No. Don't leave on my account. I was only coming to check on my sister. And tell her about the obnoxious thing my father said. Or did. Which was it? I hadn't meant to offend, or. It's all right. I too find him hard to swallow. I often dream of the day I can leave this place and him behind. Roslyn says sweetly, as if she means no offense and is merely trying to make conversation, which Sansa has no doubt is the case. I'll leave you to it, then. She gathers up her things and makes her way to the door, which Robb dubiously opens for her. Thank you. She says, smiling shyly at him. Good night, Sansa. Audrey and I will come look for you tomorrow morning. All right, Sansa says. Good night. Roslyn leaves and Robb comes and takes her chair, sitting next to Sansa, lost in thought. She and Audrey are my favorites, Sansa tells him. Mine too, Robb says, then snaps out of it. But her brother said that Audrey does indeed love another. He told me too. Roslyn's super nice though. And smart and funny. She's very calm and composed in public, too, which I think could be good for you. She'd calm your temper before it gets out of hand. I don't have a temper, Robb says, a little too loud, a little too quick. Sometimes, Sansa clarifies. Robb shrugs in agreement. She's pretty too. The prettiest girl I've ever seen. Robb agrees. Sansa stops her sewing, and looks up at him. Roslyn is undeniably pretty, but the prettiest girl ever is a bit of a stretch. Robb. Sansa says hesitantly. Yes. Robb says, looking at her. Have you made up your mind? I think so. Is that bad? Is it too soon? With the wedding in 3 days, I think it's both too soon and not soon enough, but, maybe sleep on it, try and talk to her in the morning. See what she's like when she's alone. Right, right. Robb agrees. Sansa looks to her big brother. He's got a faraway look in his eyes, but there's a smile on his face. Seeing her brother in love makes her miss her own love. She thinks of Theon, and wonders what he's doing now. Chapter 2, A Walk in the Woods. Notes. This second chapter is a copy /paste of chapter 18 of My Theon's a Story. Today was a fairy tale, because it is very heavily focused on Robb and the Freys. Chapter 3 will be new content. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Chapter text. The next morning, Sansa wakes up and gets ready for the day. When she's finishing up her hair, she hears a knock at her door. Come in, she says. Audrey walks in, shutting the door behind her. Good morning, Your Grace. I've come to see if you'd like to break your fast with us. Roslyn is still getting ready, but she'll meet us there. And most of my sisters sleep much later, so we won't have to deal with their company. Audrey says brightly. Sounds good. Sansa tells her. I'm almost done with my hair. Take your time, Audrey says. Hey Sansa, have you seen my navy tunic? Robb says, walking into her room. Audrey blushes when she sees him, yet still finds it in herself to curtsy. Your Grace, she says quietly. I would like to apologize about last night. There's no need, Robb tells her. Your sisters should be the ones apologizing, not you. Thank you, Your Grace. Robb nods at her. I put it at the bottom of your bag when I repacked it. Sansa tells him, referencing the tunic. Put it on and then perhaps you can escort Lady Audrey to breakfast. I have to meet up with Lady Roslyn and then we'll meet you there. Sure. Robb leaves the room and comes back momentarily. He offers Audrey his arm and then leads her out the door. Sansa follows behind them. Roslyn's and my room is at the end of the hall, Audrey says, pointing. Okay. See you soon. Sansa says as she heads in the direction Audrey pointed. Sansa knocks on the door and hears the light padding of feet before the door opens. Lady Sansa. Roslyn says brightly. Where's Audrey? She said she was going to collect you. She did. My brother is escorting her to breakfast and we are to meet them there. Roslyn says. She opens the door wider for Sansa to walk in. When the door shuts behind them, Roslyn walks over to her wardrobe. I still need to get dressed, she says. And do my hair. You're more than welcome to go eat without me. No, it's fine. I'll wait. I can do your hair, even, in a northern style. Sansa walks over to the wardrobe and looks at all the dress options. She grabs a light blue one, that shimmers in the sunlight. Here, she says. Wear this one. Robbie's favorite color is blue. Roslyn blushes, but takes the dress from her and walks behind a partition to put it on. Once she's dressed, she sits in front of the vanity as Sansa braids her hair. She braids the top half back, before twisting it into a rose-looking bun and letting the rest of her curls fall about her shoulders. All ready, Sansa says. She grabs Roslyn's arm and the two girls walk off to the dining hall. When they get there, they see Robb, Audrey, and Oliver sitting at a table. The rest of the dining hall is fairly empty, with only a couple other tables seating people. Most people must like to sleep in, Sansa thinks. It's not too early, only 8 in the morning, but in Winterfell at least half of the castle would be awake by now. Sansa takes the seat next to Oliver, making sure Roslyn has to take the seat next to Robb. Sansa looks to Audrey on the other side of her and the two of them share a knowing look. Good morning, my lady, Robb says brightly. He can't seem to take his eyes off her, and Sansa knows she picked out the right dress. You look pretty. Thank you, Roslyn says quietly, looking down at her plate. So Audrey says. What's everyone's plan for the day? Oliver. Oliver shrugs. Same as always, I suppose. I'll help the littles with their lessons this morning, then I'll go to the training yard, then run errands for father. Nice. Nice. And you, Your Grace? I'm not sure, exactly. I was thinking of taking Grey Wind for a walk after breakfast. Robb shrugs. He had put up a fight last night when Walder said no wild beasts in the castle, and it took Sansa a great deal to calm Robb down before agreeing to keep Grey Wind in the stables. No temper, huh? Sansa had thought to herself. Roslyn could go with you. Audrey says, a little too obvious. She's very fond of walking. And she's got nothing better planned for the day, right, Ro? Just reading. She directs that last bit towards Roslyn, who looks at her sister slightly annoyed. Just reading and sewing. I told Minnie I'd help her with her lessons later. See? She's got nothing better to do. Audrey says a little too excitedly. Oliver shoots her a look across the table, and Audrey just shrugs. I'd be happy for you to accompany me, Robb says, his enthusiasm almost matching Audrey's. If you'd like. I'd quite like that, Roslyn says. Thank you. The rest of breakfast is pleasant small talk amongst the 5 of them. When they've finished eating, Rob stands up and offers Roslyn his arm. Roslyn hesitates, before taking it and letting him lead her to the stables. Just as she's about to leave the room, she looks back towards Audrey, who gives her an encouraging nod. I just love love. Audrey sighs. Don't you? I do, Sansa agrees. They're not in love, Oliver reasons. They met yesterday. But did you see the way he was looking at her? And when he walked me here this morning he was asking about her. Audrey argues. He's curious about her, sure. I don't think he's in love with her. That's because you're too sinister when it comes to love. Sansa agrees with me, don't you? I do. Sansa says, a smile overtaking her face. Last night he said she was the prettiest girl he'd ever seen. And did you see him ogling her in that dress? He couldn't take his eyes off her. Should I be worried? Oliver asks, suddenly alert. No. They'll be married in 2 days. Don't make a big deal. It's too late to go all big brother on him. And he's a king. Father may kill you. Oliver shrugs. I doubt it. He stands up and kisses his sister on the head, before nodding kindly at Sansa. Good day, ladies. I'll see you later. And with that, he walks off. The walk to the stables is fairly quiet. Roslyn is looking around nervously, and Rob can't think of anything to say. When they get to the stall Grey Wind is being kept in, the wolf lights up at the sight of his owner. Hey boy, Rob says sweetly. He opens up the stall and Grey Wind rushes towards them, causing Roslyn to tighten her grip on Rob's arm. It's okay, he won't bite. Are you sure? Roslyn asks apprehensively. My brothers told many tales of the young wolf and how his dire wolf would assist him on the battlefield. Rob chuckles, and then leans down to scratch Grey Wind behind the ears. That was on the battlefield, though. He won't bite you, I won't let him. Roslyn looks at him, and when she sees the sincerity in Rob's eyes, she leans down and pets the dire wolf's head. Grey Wind nuzzles into her touch. Rob smirks. He likes you. Roslyn smiles, but not at him, at Grey Wind, making Rob feel a little jealous. I like him, she says. Now Rob's definitely jealous. He clears his throat to snap out of it, causing both Grey Wind and Roslyn to look his way. Shall we? He asks, offering her his arm again. Roslyn gives Grey Wind one last pet before standing up and taking his arm. He leads her out of the stables, Grey Wind trailing behind them. He stops once they're outside, unsure where to lead them on the walk. There's a couple of trails in the woods, Roslyn says, as if she's reading his thoughts. We can go there. Or to the gardens. But our gardens are rather barren and unkept, and I figure the wolf will like the woods more. Probably, yes. Rob agrees. Lead the way. Roslyn leads them over to a nearby lake. They walk around it and then come to an entrance to the woods. Upon reaching it, Grey Wind takes off running, and the two of them follow behind at a much slower pace. What's his name? Roslyn asks. Grey Wind. Rob says. She smiles at him, and Rob finds it hard to take his eyes off her. He almost leads them into a tree, but Roslyn pulls them to the side, back onto the trail. And does your sister have one too? And your other siblings? My sister did, yes. But King Robert sentenced it to death when my other sister's wolf bit his bastard son. They couldn't find Arya's wolf. So, they killed Sansa's. Oh, how horrible. Roslyn gasps. She's quiet for a moment, then says, I was sorry to hear about your little sister. That she went missing in King's Landing. It's a terrible thing to lose a sibling. Yes, it is, Rob agrees. He looks at her again, more fully this time, trying to think of it from her perspective. She has so many siblings, and he knows she's lost some brothers while they were off fighting his battles. Does having so many siblings make it easier to lose one? Or harder? He wonders. Changing the subject, Roslyn asks, are you excited to go back home, Your Grace? Yes, Rob tells her. We left my baby brother behind, and I'm eager to get back to him. My mother should be home in another moon or so, and it will be nice to be back in the normal order of things. Roslyn nods in understanding. What about you, are you excited to see the North? See the North? Roslyn echoes, confusion evident on her face. Rob falters, realizing his mistake. He had taken Sangza's advice and slept on the decision of who to make his bride, but after seeing Roslyn again this morning, he knew. He knew she was the one he wanted. The only problem was that she didn't know. And he had just told her in the most backhanded way. I only meant. I know what you meant, Roslyn said quickly. Then her face turned from white to pink, as she blushed slightly. I'm sorry, Your Grace, I hadn't meant to interrupt you. It's all right. I hadn't meant to startle you. You can always say no, I won't hold it against you. And I haven't told your father, so he won't hold it against you either, he tells her honestly. At the mention of her father, Roslyn tenses up. I accept your proposal, Your Grace, if that's what this is. A true smile breaks out on Rob's face, and he can't seem to hide it. But he worries less when he sees a small smile form on Roslyn's face as well. Call me Rob, please. And yes, that was a proposal, though a very bad one at that. Now it's Rob's turn to blush. It wasn't that bad, Roslyn tells him quietly. She then looks away, to the trail in front of her. It appears they've reached a fork in the road. Come, she says, tugging lightly on his arm. This way. Chapter 3, A Walk at Night. Notes. First chapter of the story that isn't something you may have already read. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I've been having a lot of fun writing this. Chapter text. She was to marry Rob Stark. Roslyn still couldn't believe it. In less than 3 days' time she would be married, be queen consort in the north, and be leaving home. The last thought is what excited her the most. She was terrified to be married, terrified to be a queen. And while she loved her siblings, her home terrified her. Her father terrified her the most. And ever since she was a little girl, she had wanted nothing more than to leave it behind. And now she finally got the chance. Earlier that day, King Rob had proposed to her, and once he had told her father he had chosen his bride, the true preparations began. She and Minnie had begun to work on her wedding dress at once, while Audrey began working on her maiden cloak. Her sisters Ilya, Morgan, Floria, and her soon-to-be good sister Sangza came to help as well. They made the dress out of a satin as white as snow, but layered white lace over the top of it, knowing they wouldn't have enough time to embroider any intricate designs. The next day, Minnie and Audrey finished sewing the dress, while Sangza and the other girls embroidered the design on her maiden cloak. The cloak was a deep grey, with the free sigil soon to be embroidered on the back. Roslyn spent so much time sewing, that she barely was able to see Rob at all. She saw him in the morning, at breakfast, but she couldn't really talk to him as Audrey hounded her with questions about the wedding. It was now the night before she was to be married, and Roslyn realized she had only spoken to her betrothed 3 times. 2 if you didn't count the first one, which Roslyn wasn't sure if she could. She had talked at him rather than to him when she defended Audrey at dinner mere nights ago. And since then, she had only talked to him on their proposal walk, and once at breakfast. She was marrying a man she barely knew, and the thought was beginning to frighten her. Sure, his grace was kind. He was considerate and passionate and charming from what she had gathered in their conversations. He was a good brother to Sangza from what she had seen. But what if it was all a faked? What if, tomorrow night, or after, once they reached Winterfell, his entire personality were to change? The girls and her had finished the dress and cloak, and now Audrey was asleep, but Roslyn found herself far too restless to go to bed, despite how exhausted she was. She lit her candle and sat at her desk for a while, reading, but she was full of too much nervous energy to focus on the words in front of her. As a result, she had taken to quietly pacing about her room. She was so lost in thought that she didn't hear it the first time a rock was thrown at her window. And the second time it happened, she thought she had only imagined the noise. But the third time it happens, she actually sees the rock hit the window just above her desk. She walks over to it and opens the window, looking down to see Rob standing below it, grey wind at his heels. I was starting to worry this wasn't your window, he yells to her, laughing. Your Grace. What are you doing? Roslyn asks. She glances back to Audrey worriedly, but sees she's still asleep. Someone will see you. So? Rob shrugs. Come for a walk with me. It's the middle of the night. please? He asks again. His voice as sweet as honey, and a charming look in his eyes. Rosalind turns and looks at her door. I can't. Someone will see me in the hall. Climb down from the window, he suggests. I'm on the second floor. Rob laughs, earning an unpleasant look from Rosalind. It's barely 15 feet high. You could jump. I'll catch you. Rosalind looks down at the ground below her. I think you overestimate my abilities, Your Grace. And I think you underestimate mine. Jump. I promise I'll catch you. If I don't, I'll certainly break your fall. Rosalind hesitates, looking down at the ground again. But then she remembers what her father told her when he learned of her engagement. Never say no to the king, Rosalind. Whatever he wants of you, you do it, or I'll punish you for it. Not wanting to face her father, she takes a deep breath and climbs out onto the window ledge, looking down at Rob hesitantly. I promise I'll catch you, he says again. She can see the sincerity in his eyes. She jumps. Rob does catch her, only stumbling back slightly. He holds her in his arms for a few moments longer than Rosalind would have expected, before he sets her to the ground. Thank you, Rosalind tells him quietly. He smiles at her, and then offers his arm, which she takes hold of. With a lantern in his other hand, he leads her to the path they had walked the other day, Grey Wind following right behind them. When they get to the entrance of the woods, Grey Wind takes off running, leaving Rosalind alone with Rob. What's the weather like in Winterfell this time of year, Your Grace? Rosalind attempts at small talk. What do you say to a man you met days ago, who is soon to be your husband, and is also your king? Won't you call me Rob? He asks. He sounds annoyed. Rosalind stammers for words. Her father told her to never say no to the king, but he also told her to always address him as Your Grace. I don't know that I can, she tells him. Maybe tomorrow. Rob saves her the embarrassment of pressing the topic further. It's quite cold back home, but it hasn't snowed yet. Rosalind nods. When we get there, Rob continues, I'll show you the grounds. I think you'll quite like it all. And my father had a September bee built for my mother, she also follows the faith of the Seven, you'll be free to go there to pray when you want. Thank you. Winterfell has a library tower, I'll be sure to show it to you when we get back. Rosalind smiles at his kindness. Thank you. Rob returns her smile with a charming smile of his own. She blushes and looks down at her feet. Are you scared? Rob asks her. Of what, Your Grace? I'm not sure. Of getting married. Going north. Leaving home. Of being queen, Rosalind confesses. Oh, Rob nods. He clearly hadn't thought of that. My mother will be there too. She's been Lady of Winterfell for many years now, and will be able to help you with whatever you need. Thank you. I'm sure I'll need all the help I can get. I don't think so, Rob disagrees. Rosalind turns to look at him. I think you underestimate yourself as much as me. I'm sure you'll be much better than you realize. Rosalind blushes at the compliment, and Rob smiles, satisfied. But enough talk of responsibilities for tonight, he tells her. What shall we talk of instead? Rosalind wonders aloud. Anything. Everything. I really don't know much about you, other than that you're beautiful, smart, and love to read and sew. Rosalind blushes at the compliment. No one has ever called her beautiful before. She's sure he's just saying it, but it still makes her feel warm inside. I'm not sure there's anything else. She tells him honestly. There is, Rob argues, you just don't want to tell me. Rosalind can't think of anything else, but her father's words are at the back of her mind. Never say no to the king, Rosalind. Honestly, Your Grace, nothing comes to mind. Rob, he corrects. Rosalind says nothing. Do you like to dance? Rob asks. Rosalind looks at him confused, so he continues. Your father is planning a lot of dances tomorrow. I was wondering if he did so because you love it. Rosalind scoffs before she can stop herself. It's not like him to be so considerate, she thinks. I do like to dance, but most of my siblings do, so that's probably why. And it's a cheaper form of entertainment since almost all of us play an instrument. What instrument do you play? Rob asks, intrigued. I don't. I played the flute when I was younger but was dreadful at it, so I stopped, Roslyn says, a laugh escaping her. I much prefer dancing. What about you, Your Grace? I don't play an instrument, no. Do you dance? I know how to. Rob shrugs. My mother made me learn. But I don't like it so much. Oh, Roslyn says, trying and failing to hide her disappointment. It's not so bad, though, in moderation. I'll grow to like it more, since you love it so much. Roslyn stops dead in her tracks when he says this. His kindness making her falter. She has never met a more kind and considerate man in her life. Not even Oliver, or any of her brothers, of which she considered nice, could compare to him. She looks at him warily. What's wrong? Rob asks, turning around to face her when he feels her let go of his arm. Nothing. Roslyn looks behind her. I think we should head back now. Oh. All right. Rob offers her his arm again and then whistles for Grey Wind to come, before leading them back the way they came. When they get to her window, Roslyn looks up at it intimidated. Bricks on the wall jut out just so that she could climb up it, and it really isn't that high, but it doesn't make it any less scary. Roslyn? Rob asks, breaking her from her thoughts. He has a worried look on his face. Yes. Did I say the wrong thing before? No, Roslyn says, smiling at him. I think you said just the right thing. She walks over to him and stands on her tiptoes to plant a kiss on his cheek. Good night, Rob. She then walks to the wall and begins to climb up. When she gets to her window, she crawls into her room before looking behind her. Rob is standing right below her window still, smiling up at her. Good night, Roslyn. I'll see you tomorrow. He calls out. Roslyn smiles down at him. Good night, she whispers, before crawling into bed. Chapter 4, The Wedding. Summary. Rob and Roslyn get married, and become more acquainted with each other. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. Roslyn wakes up the next morning to Audrey's face hovering over her. You were smiling in your sleep, Audrey tells her. Roslyn yawns. I was quite enjoying it until you startled me awake. Yes, well, we have much to do. Get out of bed, we need to get ready. Minnie and Sansa aren't even here yet. That's no excuse. You need to look perfect today. Not only for the king but for father too. There's so much we need to do. Roslyn began to drown out her sister, instead thinking about how much this single day would change her life. It was overwhelming, really, how much was to change. Thankfully Sansa came in before Roslyn could get too lost in her thoughts. Morning, Sansa. Roslyn says brightly. Good morning. Rob says good morning too. Sansa says, causing Roslyn to blush. Sansa. Audrey exclaims. Thank goodness you're here. Minnie still hasn't woken up yet and the other girls have to help set up the ceremony in the September. Roslyn won't listen to me. She doesn't seem worried at all by all we need to do. Talk some sense into her, will you please? There's nothing to worry about. Roslyn shrugs. I have 6 hours to get ready, that's more than enough. Sansa chuckles lightly to herself, though Roslyn doesn't know why. But you have to bathe, do your hair, paint your face, and getting you into your gown will take time. There's so many buttons. And Sansa, Minnie, and I will still have to get ready. Audrey argues. Well, I'm not painting my face, so that will save some time. Roslyn tells her sister. Audrey only sighs in exasperation. Roslyn takes a bath and not much later Minnie comes and joins them. The 3 girls all fuss over Roslyn, much to her chagrin. Sansa does her hair, braiding it back before securing it in a bun at the nape of her neck, while Minnie douses Roslyn in lotions and perfume. Audrey is the worst of all, however, as she looms over the 3 of them and critiques their every move. Stop squirming, Ro, you'll ruin your hair. I haven't moved. Minnie, have I moved? No, but Minnie starts. Minnie free. Whose side are you on? Audrey asks, causing all 4 girls to laugh. Sansa does all of their hair, and then the 3 girls put on their gowns before helping Roslyn into hers. Why are there so many buttons? Minnie asks, as she fumbles with yet another one. 78 buttons is the perfect amount, Audrey says. Look at how perfectly it runs down Ao's back. I guess so. Minnie shrugs. My wedding dress will have laces, though. It's moments before the ceremony, and Rosalind stands just outside the September, with Oliver, waiting for their father to appear. She touches up the color on her lips. After endless goading, Rosalind had agreed to let Audrey paint them, and paces by the door. Stop pacing, Oliver tells her. You'll work up a sweat. But what if I mess up? What if something goes wrong? Well, you'll have a second ceremony to do it better, he jokes. It's true though. Rob had wanted the wedding in Winterfell, in front of the old gods that he worshipped, but her father had refused. Rosalind had been the one to come up with the compromise of 2 ceremonies. One in the September at the Twins following the Faith of the Seven, and one in the Godswood in Winterfell. You're not going to mess up, Oliver says, his tone becoming more serious when his joke didn't calm her down. If anything, I'm more worried about father messing up. He's not late, is he? He's supposed to be here now. The ceremony starts in 5 minutes. I know, Rosalind says pointedly. 2 minutes later, Walder Free comes walking over, ever so slowly. Father Oliver greets. There you are, we were getting worried. I was attending to important matters, Walder excuses himself. I'm sure you were, Oliver says, rolling his eyes at Rosalind. Ao's ready, so I'll head inside and tell them to start the ceremony. Oliver squeezes Rosalind's hand reassuringly before heading inside, leaving her alone with their father. Walder begrudgingly offers her his arm. You'll do well, he tells her. Only, it sounds more like a command than encouragement. I thought the king would pick Audrey or Wyler, they're the prettiest ones of you all. But at least you're not plain like Walder. Thank you, Father, Rosalind tells him hesitantly. You remember what I told you the other day? Walder asks, as he leads her into the September. Rosalind looks at him, making eye contact so he knows she understands. Yes, Father. I do. He pats her arm. Good. Good. I suppose it's better he picked you. You're the most obedient, the easiest to bend and boss around. He'll have no problem telling you what to do, not if I don't. Walder laughs at that, but Rosalind can only nod, her face in a tight line. Is he going to treat me like father? She wonders. She thought he was different. That he was kind and considerate and charming. But what if he was just playing the part to ensure she married him? Tomorrow he could be a completely different man. Tonight even, at the bedding ceremony. No, she thinks. His Grace promised me there would be no bedding ceremony. She had thought he had meant it at the time. Now she's not so sure. She doesn't have much time to contemplate it though, because she and her father have reached the end of the aisle. Her father is currently passing her off to her betrothed. Rob takes her hand in his gingerly, before walking her up to the altar. They stand in front of the septon, but before turning to face her, Rob whispers to her, "Are you all right?" Rosalind looks back to her father, to see if he caught him asking, then whips her head back around when she realizes Rob just saw her do that. She gives Rob a small nod, though he doesn't look convinced. The septon conducts the ceremony, leading them in vows to all 7 gods. It takes nearly 2 hours, for the prayers are lengthy and slow. All the while, Rob is smiling sweetly at her, but Rosalind can't find it in herself to look at him. She can't fake a smile. This morning she didn't think she would need to. This morning she was happy about her impending wedding. Now, she's just scared. Scared of her father. Scared of Rob. Scared of leaving her prison of a home only to be heading to a new one. No, she can't look at him. So she fixes her gaze to be just above his left shoulder. When the prayers and vows are done, Rob takes her hand again. Confused, Rosalind finally looks to him, only to realize he grabbed her hand because the septon is tying their hands together, the last part of the ceremony. In the sight of the 7, I hereby seal these 2 souls, binding them as one, for eternity. Says the septon. Then it's hers and Rob's turn to say. Father, Smith, warrior, mother, maiden, crone, stranger, I am his and he is mine from this day to the end of my days. Father, Smith, warrior, mother, maiden, crone, stranger, I am hers and she is mine from this day to the end of my days. Rob's still smiling at her, and realizing everyone is watching, Roslyn forces a smile onto her face. His smile falls slightly, when he sees hers, for he must know she's faking it. Remembering what her father told her, she squeezes Rob's hand, in an effort to reassure him. It works. Roslyn actually enjoys the feast. The food is good, and she spends the whole time thanking her siblings and guests, so she doesn't have to talk to Rob or her father. She doesn't have to put on a facade for either of them. At one point, Rob is even pulled from her side, being swept up into conversation by some lord Roslyn should know the name of, but is too nervous to remember. She takes the opportunity to look for her sisters. She can't see Audrey anywhere, but spots Minnie sitting with all the younger children. "Minnie!" she exclaims. "Ro!" Minnie chirps back. Minnie gets up from her table and walks to her sister, lining their arms and smiling giddy at her. It was a beautiful ceremony. Father seemed pleased. "Good," Roslyn said, relieved. "Are you pleased?" Roslyn laughs nervously. What an odd thing to say. Of course I'm pleased. The king chose me. I am to be queen in the north. That is a great honor. Ro, Minnie starts. What's happened? You were nervous this morning, but you seemed happy too. Has the king done something? Said something? And why are you calling him that now? You called him by his name just this morning. Minnie stops, realizing. Was it father? You can't listen to him, Ro, you know you can't. Father expects a lot of me, Roslyn sighs. I know most of the time what he expects is unreasonable, but I did just marry a king. That's a whole other more serious matter than what I normally deal with. Father may have told me some crude things, but there's truth to them, I'm sure. I can't just say no to the king. Say no for what? Rob asks, walking up to her in Minnie. She and Minnie immediately curtsy. Your Grace, they both demur. Rise, please. Rob says impatiently. Lady Minissa, perhaps you can go keep my sister company. She's sitting just over there. Rob points back to the direction he just came from, where Sansa is sitting. She waves to them. I promised my wife I would dance with her tonight, and from what I hear, the dancing's about to begin. Yes, of course. Minnie says. She curtsies once more, before walking over to Sansa. Would you like to dance? Rob asks, holding out his hand. You don't have to. Roslyn says quietly. Rob looks at her, confused. I thought you loved dancing. I do, but. No buts. You just said yourself that you can't just say no to the king, and here I am asking, will you please do me the honor of dancing with me? There's jest in his eyes and voice, though Roslyn remains skeptical. She straightens her back. Yes, of course, Your Grace. Roslyn says quickly, taking his offered hand. Rob's grip is tight. No, he says. I didn't mean it like that. We don't have to dance because I want to. I was only thinking that if you wanted to, we would. Whichever you prefer, Your Grace. Rob. He says harshly. We're married now. You must call me Rob. As you wish. Why, Rob? Rob sighs, clearly frustrated. He pulls her to the side of the room, where they are hidden behind a crowd of people, instead of out in the open floor. I'm trying to be considerate, he tells her impatiently. But you have to meet me halfway. I'm not trying to order you around, and I know you're smart enough to know that, so why are you acting like it? His bluntness catches her off guard. As your wife it is my job to make you happy, she says, as if it's a perfectly standard excuse. She had thought it was. I'll be happier if you say what you mean to say and not what you think I want to hear. You don't have to be afraid of me. I'm not going to punish you if we disagree. After all, as your husband it is my job to protect and take care of you. Roslyn smiles. A true, genuine smile, her mind once again at ease. He is nothing like father, she thinks, nothing at all. The music begins to play and Roslyn lifts his hand, still holding on to hers. I believe I was promised a dance, she says, motioning for him to lead her to the dance floor. Rob's smile returns to his face. I promised you multiple dances, he tells her happily. He leads her to the dance floor, and they dance a half-dozen songs. Laughing, talking, and smiling the entire time. Rosalind's not quite sure how it happened, but one moment she's sitting and talking with her new husband, and the next she's being pulled this way and that, her wedding dress trying to be pulled off her. She's grateful that it has so many buttons down the back that it can't be so easily removed. 78 buttons is the perfect amount, she remembers Audrey saying. She couldn't agree more. She hears 3 loud smacks, followed by 3 loud thuds, and she looks to see her brothers on the ground, no longer pulling at her dress. Rob takes her hand gently. "Come, Rosalind," he whispers, and he leads her out of there. Rosalind follows him blindly and doesn't even realize they were headed to his bedchamber until they get there. He opens the door and pulls her inside, before locking it behind him. "I'm sorry about that," he tells her honestly. He subconsciously begins stripping himself of his clothing, taking off his doublet, then his boots. "I told your father no bedding ceremony. I thought I had made that clear." Rosalind sighs. "It was to be expected. My father hardly ever doesn't do what he wants." She catches her reflection in the mirror then, and eyes how her left sleeve was nearly torn off her dress. Luckily it only tore at the seam and she'd be able to fix it. The skirt was torn too, but that was her own fault. In the panic of the moment she had stepped on the skirt and it tore a ways up, revealing most of her right leg. She sighs. She won't be able to fix that. She looks back over to catch Rob looking at her, a strange, almost hungry look in his eyes. "Your Grace?" she asks, as he walks slowly towards her. "Rob," he corrects. "Sorry," Rosalind says, a blush filling her cheeks as she looks down at her feet. Rob takes hold of her chin with one hand, and brings her eyes back up to his. "Say it," he whispers. "Please." "Rob, I." Rob crashes his lips to hers, he can't help it. He hears and feels her gasp, but she doesn't protest, so he doesn't pull away. Instead, he deepens the kiss, slipping his tongue in when she moans against him. He breaks apart from her briefly to pull his tunic off of him, and then he pulls her back against him, bringing her hands to his chest as he kisses her dizzy. Rosalind's hands stay still at first, resting in the exact spot where he had placed them. He pulls her more against him, and she grabs his shoulders to steady herself, gasping when his muscles tense momentarily. She has seen plenty of men's muscles, but never felt them up close. Never felt them at all, really. She likes the way his muscles feel beneath her grip. Strong and capable. Rob begins to work at the buttons trailing down her back. He curses quietly against her lips when he can't get them undone. Her buttons are much smaller and fragile and not quite fit for his large hands. "I'm sorry," Rosalind says, pulling away, taking a minute to catch her breath. There's an utterly beautiful blush on her cheeks, and Rob can do nothing but smile at her. "It's all right," Rob tells her. "We don't have to do it tonight." "No, the buttons. I think I may have ruined the moment," she whispers. "You didn't ruin anything," Rob tells her sweetly. He pulls her back against him, happy to see that she doesn't hesitate to melt into his arms. "But I mean it. We don't have to do anything you don't want to do." "But my father." "Your father can't do shit so long as we give him blooded sheets in the morning," Rob says, a little harsher than he means. He softens his voice. "He'd never know the difference if I were to just cut my hand and let it bleed. But I have a duty to." "Your duty is to be my wife." "Yes, that implies certain things, but we don't have to do anything tonight. As your husband it is my duty to protect you, remember. I'm not going to hurt you. Or make you do anything you don't want to," Rob tells her. He sits on the edge of the bed and pulls her towards him, until she's practically sitting in his lap. "And if I do want to," Rosalind whispers so quietly Rob's almost not sure he heard her. Rob pulls her gaze back to his once again. "Well, I'm certainly not going to protest," he tells her, coaxing a giggle out of her. He silences her by kissing her again. He still can't get the buttons undone, but with her permission, he uses his knife to cut the fabric at the back seam. When it comes undone he pulls it off her slowly, before lifting her up and gently placing her on the bed. He climbs over her, and later on, when they are both exhausted and sweaty and tangled in each other's arms, there's no longer any need to find a different way to bloody the sheets. Notes: I am just posting a lot of things today, I guess. I hope everyone likes this chapter. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think of the story so far. I'm going out of town for a minute and so I will post the rest of my Thianza story tomorrow, but I'm not sure when I'll be able to update this one next. I hope everyone has a great day. Chapter 5, The Morning After. Chapter text. Roslyn wakes to find Rob's arms wrapped protectively around her. She smiles to herself, content, as she carefully and quietly untangles herself, not wanting to wake him. She wraps one of the blankets around her body as she goes to her packed bag, filled with all the things she'll be taking to her new home. The thought excites her. She's always wanted nothing more than to leave the twins. And she couldn't have lucked out better for a husband. What she and Rob have is not quite love yet, but he's kind, gentle, and strong, and very nice to look at, as Audrey had been reminding her these last couple of days. She pulls out Audrey's pink riding dress, one she had given to her as a present, and goes behind a partition to get dressed. She may no longer be a maiden, but her modesty is still very much intact and she can't find it in herself to get dressed in the openness of the room, even if her husband is asleep. She hears Rob stir from the other side of the partition wall, and stays quiet as he gets out of bed. "Roslyn," he calls out, his voice caught in a yawn. "Yes, Your Grace," Roslyn says. She steps back out from behind the partition as she tries to finish tying her dress laces. Rob makes a face at that, but doesn't say anything. She knows he wishes she would call him by his name, but he still feels a little too unfamiliar for Roslyn to be comfortable foregoing all formalities. Rob walks over and helps her with her laces, tying them off and then pressing a kiss to her head. He doesn't seem to share his modesty, as he walks around the room naked, gathering his clothes from where they were thrown around the night before. Feeling embarrassed for staring at him, Roslyn busies herself by looking for something in her bag. She can't seem to find whatever it is she was pretending to look for. When Rob is finally dressed, he goes to check on Sansa, leaving Roslyn alone as she braids back her hair. Sometime later, Sansa joins her and then the two girls head out to the stables in search of Rob. They find Grey Wind, and then walk over to where Rob and her father are standing. When the time has come to say goodbye to her siblings, Roslyn finds it very hard not to cry. Wally and Eleanor are being extra clingy and cute, even Minnie lingers longer than she normally would when hugging her sister. Audrey is the hardest to say goodbye to, but Roslyn knows it must be done. She gives everyone one last hug goodbye before Rob lifts her onto his horse, smiling up at her. All is well until her father says, "A raven came yesterday morning. And I'm only hearing about this now." Rob asks curiously, and slightly angry too. "What did it say?" "Your mother is dead," her father says bluntly. The chaos that ensues is overwhelming. She hears Sansa scream and sees Rob flinch. Eleanor and her other baby siblings begin crying due to all the commotion, and Roslyn hops off the horse to help Minnie and Audrey round them up. Rob is further questioning her father, whose monotone and lack of care is not helping the case. "Say goodbye to Ro, guys," Minnie tells her younger siblings, as she and Audrey usher them away. Minnie looks at Roslyn and mouths, "I'm sorry." Audrey is for once too stunned to speak. And then all her siblings but Oliver are gone, and Roslyn feels so utterly alone in an instant. It nearly takes her breath away. Oliver hugs her quickly and kisses her forehead, before lifting her back onto the horse. He then goes to help Sansa up as Rob absent-mindedly climbs on his horse, sitting behind Roslyn. He doesn't even look at her, his gaze stays fixed straight ahead, and that's when Roslyn knows that everything is ruined now. Rob doesn't say a word to her at all the rest of the day. When they stop to make camp, he helps her down from the horse but doesn't look at her. And later, when she and Sansa are ready for bed, she ends up trying to comfort Sansa, who's in a fit of hysterical crying. When Rob finally comes to their tent, he doesn't say anything. He just looks at her quizzically as she strokes a now sleeping Sansa's hair, and he climbs into his own bed and collapses to sleep. The next morning, Roslyn thinks things may be okay again. She walks over to Rob, who is saddling his horse, and pets Grey Wind, who is sitting at his feet. "Good morning, Your Grace," she says to him quietly. "How are you feeling today?" He doesn't look at her, and he doesn't answer her directly when he says, "Thank you for taking care of Sansa last night." Of course she starts to say, but stops when Rob simply walks off, going to grab their bags to be tied to the horses. That's when Rosalind starts to think that things may never be okay again. The rest of the journey goes by much the same. Every night she has to comfort Sangza to sleep, and every morning, Rob thanks her for it, but doesn't say much else to her the rest of the day. On the third day, he does start to look at her more, so at least there's that. By the time they get to Winterfell, Rosalind has no idea what to think. She tries to stay out of Rob's way as much as possible, which doesn't prove challenging seeing as he doesn't approach her unless he needs to. They get to the gates of Winterfell, and Rob helps Rosalind get down from the horse, and then helps Sansa to the ground, before walking inside, Grey Wind at his heels. Rosalind looks to Sansa and sees her standing there, sad and frightened. "Come, sweet sister," she tells her, taking Sansa's arm and leading her inside. They are greeted by who Rosalind assumes is Rob and Sansa's half-brother, Jon. Moments later, Rob comes back, carrying a young boy, followed by two other older men and another direwolf. "I'll take the new Lady Stark to her chambers," one man says. Rosalind can feel the air shift. She wants to apologize, but finds herself too afraid to speak. She looks to Rob, and finds him already looking at her, a pained expression on his face that he is doing a poor job at hiding. "Thank you, Lewyn," Rob says. And she follows the man as he leads her away. "I'm Maester Lewyn," the old man tells her. "You can come to me with anything you need, any question you have. I will be happy to help." "Thank you," Rosalind tells him, genuinely relieved to feel some comfort in his words. He leads her down several hallways, until they reach the master chamber. He opens the door for her and she walks inside. "I'll let you get settled," Maester Lewyn tells her. "Someone will bring your things in shortly. Perhaps I can call someone to run you a bath." "That would be lovely, thank you." Lewyn nods and leaves her be. Rosalind sits at the vanity and unbraids her hair. She feels strange. Here she is, sitting in what is now her room, and she couldn't feel more like a stranger. Like an outsider. She wonders if her late good mother had felt like this when she first came to Winterfell. There's no way of knowing now. Minutes later, two men stop by, one carrying hers and Rob's bag of things, and the other carrying a large tub of bath water. They leave as soon as they come and Rosalind finds herself alone again. She grabs a dress from the top of her bag, and sets it on the stool beside the bathtub before getting in. 30 minutes later, she's freshly clean and running a comb through her wet hair, when Rob walks in. Rosalind stands and curtsies to him. "Your Grace," she greets. Rob winces, and takes a deep breath. "Please don't do that when we're alone," he asks her. "I can't stand formalities, nor do I expect them of you in private. And I thought I asked you to call me Rob." "I'm sorry, Your Gia, I'm sorry." Rob sighs. "I'm sorry too. I'm leaving soon. I need to head to the Dread Fort and get things sorted there. I won't be back for a week at least." "When do you leave?" Rosalind asks, trying hard to mask her disappointment. "In 20 minutes," Rob says, clearly sorry about it all. "Sansa's coming with me. But my brothers will be here. And Maester Lewyn and Sir Roderick. You can go to any of them for anything you need." Rosalind nods. Rob walks over to her slowly, hesitantly. "I know the last week I have not been very kind or attentive to you. I'm sorry about that. I promise when I return everything will be different." "I'm not so sure that's a good thing," Rosalind whispers. "It will be," Rob says, sounding very confident and assured. "I promise." Rosalind merely nods again. Rob glances at the clock in the room. "I have to go. I'm sorry." Rosalind doesn't know what to say to that, so she doesn't say anything. Rob stands up, but hesitates before he walks away. He turns back around to face her and brings her hand to his lips, kissing it sweetly. "I'll see you soon," he promises. Rosalind nods again, silently cursing herself for acting like a ninny. Rob begins to walk away, and Rosalind calls out to him. "Your Gia, Rob." "Yes." Rob smiles at her, happy she finally used his name. "Please be careful." Rob's smile widens to an almost grin. "Of course, my lady." He walks back over to her and presses a quick kiss to her lips, before walking away once again. When Rosalind's alone, she finds herself unsure of what to do. She unpacks her bag, but finds that it doesn't take long. So then she sits in a chair and wonders what to do. She notices a book sitting on one of the shelves, a book about Ironborn culture and customs. She begins to read it and does so for a while before there's a light knock at her door. Roslyn gets up to answer it, and finds John standing on the other side. "Good evening, Lady Stark," John tells her politely. "I've come to collect you for dinner." Roslyn smiles at him, and lets him lead her to dinner. Dinner in Winterfell is just as lively as dinner in the Twins. Tables are full of people talking, laughing, and eating. Roslyn sits at the head table with John, Rickon, Maester Lewin, and Sir Roderick. All are listening as Rickon talks to them. "I've gotten much better with my sword fighting thanks to Sir Roderick," Rickon says. "But my archery's gotten worse without Theon here. Is that possible?" "You just need to practice more," Sir Roderick tells him. "Perhaps I could practice after dinner." "Lady Roslyn, would you like to watch?" "I'm very good at it." "Not tonight," John tells. "Okay, tomorrow then." Rickon turns to face Roslyn more fully. "Rob asked me to show you around Winterfell while he's gone. He said Shaggydoak could come too. I was thinking we could start bright and early. Winterfell is big. There's a lot to see." "I'd like that," Roslyn says, smiling down at him. Rickon reminds her a lot of her little brother Wally, a little older but just as wild and happy. "And you'll start after breakfast," Maester Lewin tells Rickon. "The lady is very tired from her journey, I imagine, and you can show her Winterfell over the course of more than one day." "Okay," Rickon sighs. When dinner is done, John excuses himself and Rickon. "Time for bed," John tells him, lifting Rickon out of his chair. "Lady Roslyn, will you read to me?" Rickon asks. "My mother or sister normally do, but Rob took Sansa with him and my mother can't." John doesn't do the voices as he reads like Rob does. Theon didn't either, but he would at least read the pirate stories in his Ironborn accent. "Rickon." John chides. "You don't have to," he tells Roslyn. "No, it's fine," she assures John, before turning to Rickon. "I'd love to, Rickon. Do you have any stories in mind?" "I was going to have Sansa read me the story of Jonquil and Florian. It's her favorite. Can we read that?" "Sure." And so, Roslyn reads Rickon to sleep while John sits and listens. When the story is done and Rickon is snoring soundly, John escorts Lady Roslyn back to her room. "Do you have everything you need?" John asks when they reach her door. "Yes," Roslyn tells him. "Well then. I'll come to collect you at 8:30 tomorrow, if it suits you." 8:30 is fine, I'll see you then." John nods and begins to walk away. Roslyn stops him. "Sir John," she calls out. "Did His Grace, did Rob, seem eager to leave earlier?" John hesitates, and Roslyn can feel herself blush. "Never mind," she tells him. "I shouldn't have asked. Good night." "He seemed eager, but only because I think he wants to get the conflict resolved. He wants to ensure his mother's death is properly avenged. But he made me promise to keep an eye on you. To keep you company. He wouldn't have asked me that if he didn't care for you." "Oh," Roslyn says as she registers his words. "His Grace cares about me." She thinks. "Rob still cares about me. Very well. Thank you. Good night." "Good night, my lady." At that, John walks off and Roslyn closes the door. She turns around and looks at her new bedchamber, taking a deep breath. "I can do this," she thinks. "I have to do this. She will be a good wife and a good queen. Not for her father. Not for Rob. But for herself. I can do this." Chapter 6, The First Week in Winterfell. Chapter text. The entire journey to the Dread Fort, Rob is lost in his thoughts. He hardly talks to Sansa, though she doesn't seem to push him on it. His thoughts are on a cycle. First, he thinks of his mother. How he sent her to her death. He never should have let her leave Winterfell. He didn't trust Roose, and yet the thought that he would kill her never crossed his mind. It should have crossed his mind. It's all his fault. His mother. Even Stannis Baratheon. It's all his fault. The only good thing is that his mother died never knowing Bran was missing. Bran, who disappeared in the night. He should have been more approachable to his little brother. He should have been around more. If he had, maybe Bran wouldn't have run off without telling him where. His sadness shifts to anger. Anger at Walder Frey, who kept all of this from him. And for what? For what? A wedding. He thinks of Roslin. He really thought he was starting to love her, he certainly already loved the idea of her, and yet he ruined it all. He couldn't bring himself to talk to her on their journey to Winterfell. He didn't know what to say. Of course, he didn't blame her for what happened. She had nothing to do with it. But she was an extension of her father, and for the first day, he really couldn't bear to look at her. But then the next day came around and he wanted to apologize, but she seemed preoccupied, taking care of Sansa. He was glad that Sansa had someone to care for her, and so he chose not to disrupt that. He had tried to thank Roslin for taking care of his sister, but found he didn't really know what to say. And so he left her alone, not wanting her to find him off-putting. He had thought they had parted on not too horrible terms. She seemed sad to see him leave, and had called him by his name and not your grace. But he still can't shake the feeling that he has messed up, that he's scared her off by his lack of effort. He had just made Theon Lord of the Dreadfort. Just granted Sansa permission to marry him, and now he was heading back home, to Winterfell. He hopes he hasn't messed up too greatly, and that his new wife is as eager to see him as he is her. Roslin wakes up early the next morning, on what is to be her first full day in Winterfell. It's far too early for the rest of the castle to be awake, but she can't find it in herself to go back to sleep, and so she lights a candle and sews by the firelight. She's sewing a new tunic for Robb. It's cornflower blue and she plans to put grey embroidery around the edges, and the Stark sigil over his heart. She sews for a few hours, when she hears bustling about the halls, and so she goes to her vanity and gets ready for the day. She pulls her hair back in a tight braid and secures it with a green ribbon, before putting on her green dress with the daisies on it. She then waits patiently for her good brother Jon to come collect her, like he said he would. Minutes later, she hears a knock at her door and goes to answer it. "Good morning, Lady Roslin," Jon says to her, offering her his arm. "Good morning, Jon." She tells him brightly. "I hope you rested well." "Yes. Quite," Roslin says. She finds it much easier to forego formalities with Jon instead of Robb and wonders why that is. "Rickon is to meet us in the Great Hall, where we will break our fast. And then Rickon was hoping to give you a tour of the grounds, if that's still all right." "It's perfect," Roslin tells him honestly. Breakfast is very lively and animated. Little Rickon chatting away. Rickon gives her a very extensive tour of Winterfell. So much so that it takes all morning, and they are late to lunch. She thinks he did this intentionally, however, as when they get to lunch, Maester Lewin chastises him for missing all of his morning lessons. After lunch, Roslin has her first go at managing the castle. Distributing supplies to soldiers and servants and organizing and planning little, random things. She finds it rather challenging, and wishes Lady Stark was here to help her like Robb had said she'd be. The thought fills her with guilt. "I will get the hang of this," she tells herself. The next days go by more or less the same. She spends her mornings working on her hobbies and her afternoons working on her responsibilities. She's happy to find that she does get the hang of it after another day or two. She's still not perfect at it, but things are coming easier to her than they were before. Before she knows it, a week has passed and it's time for Robb to arrive back in Winterfell. His raven had said he would arrive late in the evening, and so Roslin, Rickon, and Jon had waited patiently outside for hours. When it became apparent Robb wasn't going to arrive, Jon ushered her and Rickon back inside, assuring them that Robb had just gotten delayed and would be here shortly, and that he would wait up for him. Roslin appreciates Jon's efforts, though she's not sure if she believes him. She tucks Rickon into bed, too late in the night for her to read him a story, and goes to Robb's chambers to get ready to sleep as well. She undoes her hair and puts on her nightgown, before crawling under the covers of the large bed. She can't find it in herself to sleep, too worried for Robb and his safety. A few minutes later she hears a light knock on her door and practically jumps out of bed, rushing to greet her husband. It's not the oldest Stark that she finds on the other side of the door, but rather the youngest one. She looks down at Rickon, who is holding a stuffed wolf to his chest, Shaggy Dog right behind him. "What is it, Rickon?" she asks sweetly. looking down at her little good brother. She's only known him a week yet cares for him rather deeply, as he reminds her of her other siblings. I came to check on you, Rukun stammers out. John came to check on me, saying Rob's still not back, and I thought you might be worried. Rukun lies to her. She can see it on his face, how much he is trying to put on a strong front. The same way Rob would. That is very kind of you, Roslyn tells him sweetly, reaching down to run a soothing hand through his hair. I'll tell you what. Why don't you come sleep with me tonight? My siblings and I used to all pile into one bed whenever one of us was scared. Perhaps you can keep me company, and protect me from anything bad. Rukun smiles up at her gratefully. Yes, he says. I'll protect you. Good, Roslyn tells him happily. She leads him into her room and they climb into bed, Rukun snuggling into her side. Bran and I used to sleep with Sansa whenever she was scared, Rukun tells her. We tried to sleep with Arya too, but most of the time she wouldn't let us. Claiming she wasn't scared. We'd wake up to find her with us most mornings, though. How sweet. Roslyn tells him. Well, I'll be happy to have you keep me safe. Good night, Rukun. Good night, Ro. Rukun says, yawning. Sometime later, Roslyn startles awake, hearing a noise. She pulls Rukun against her instinctively, and hears him snore lightly against her. She hears more shuffling about the room, and is about to carry Rukun and make a run for it, or perhaps yell for John, when a candle is lit, revealing Rob. Your Grace? Roslyn asks, confused and relieved. My lady, Rob answers. I'm sorry. I hadn't meant to wake you. It's all right. Did you just get back? About 10 minutes ago. I got delayed on the second day, ran into some trouble. He motions to his chest, which, given that he's shirtless, Roslyn can easily see the bruising even in the faint candle light. What happened? She gasped. It's no matter. Rob tells her, making his way to climb into bed. Be careful, Roslyn says, motioning to Rukun. What's he doing here? Rob asks, a faint smile on his lips. He's protecting me, Roslyn tells him. He didn't want me to get scared. Rob chuckles quietly. Thank you for letting him protect you. Of course. Rob opens his mouth, about to say more, before closing it and laying down. Good night, my lady. Good night, Your Grace. The next morning, Roslyn woke to the sound of quiet whispers, and sunlight lightly creeping into the room from the windows. She looks to her side and sees Rob and Rukun sitting at Rob's desk, talking quietly to each other. Rob whispers something to Rukun as he looks over to Roslyn. He smiles at her, when he sees she's awake. Roslyn smiles shyly back at him, getting up from the bed and walking over to the vanity. Good morning, my lady, Rob tells her sweetly. He doesn't walk over towards her though, he stays at his desk. Rukun, however, rushes over to her, giving her a big hug. Morning, Ro. He tells her happily. Morning, Rukun. She says, ruffling his hair. Good morning, Your Grace, she tells Rob. Rob nods at her, and then walks over to them, putting his hands on Rukun's shoulders and leading him out of the room. Go get ready, Rick, we'll see at breakfast. Okay, Rukun says, as he and Shaggydoke walk out of the room. Once Rukun's gone, Rob walks over to his dresser and pulls out a clean tunic. He winces lightly in pain as he tries to pull it on. Roslyn looks at him and again sees the bruising on his ribs. It's much more apparent in the light of day, and looks much more painful. She also sees a cut she hadn't seen before. It looks fresh, and jagged, as if something other than a sword put it there. Roslyn wonders what happened. Are you all right, Your Grace? I'm fine, he tells her. She gives him a skeptical look. Really, I am, the wound is only still fresh is all. How'd it happen? Roslyn asks. She hopes he didn't run into any serious trouble. It was nothing, really. It doesn't look nothing, Roslyn tells him. She walks over to him to get a better look. Before she can stop herself, she reaches out and gingerly touches the bruise, before running her fingers along the cut that's beginning to scar. You need to clean it again, she tells him. I was going to go look for Maester Lewin before breakfast. Ah, okay. Rob dresses quickly and leaves soon after, leaving Roslyn alone with her thoughts as she gets ready for the day. She walks herself to breakfast, and joins John and Rukun at a table. "Good morning, my lady," John says to her as she sits down. "Good morning, John. What's your plan for the day?" "I hope to go to the September after breakfast," she tells him. "I haven't been there yet and it will be nice to pray." "I'm sure it will be." The three of them talk with each other, and all throughout breakfast, Roslyn stares at the door, waiting for Rob to walk through. He doesn't though, and so, when breakfast is done, Roslyn walks to the September, with a lot on her mind she'd like to pray about. She stays there a long time, as she prays for many things. She prays for the health and safety of all her siblings. She prays for her late good mother, that she may finally be at peace. She prays for her good father, who lost his head in King's Landing, her good sister who disappeared, and her good brother, who went missing in the night. She prays for Sangza, that she's well and happy as she prepares for her upcoming wedding. She prays for Rob, that his wound heals well and he remains otherwise unharmed. She prays for their marriage, that it may grow stronger and more friendly and possibly even turn into love. She's so lost in her prayers she doesn't notice when someone comes up and kneels beside her. "You've been here for hours," Rob tells her. "I was starting to get worried." Roslyn startles at his voice. "Your Grace!" she exclaims. "I'm sorry. I hadn't meant to scare you." "No. It's my fault. I was too lost in my thoughts." Roslyn dismisses. "What's on your mind?" Roslyn sighs. "Anything. Everything. I'm worried for siblings, and I'm worried for you." "What's wrong with your siblings?" Rob asks, concerned. "Nothing in particular, I'm just always worried for them." Roslyn shrugs. "Perhaps in a few months we can send for some of them to come visit here. And they can stay for a while." "I'd quite like that, thank you." "Of course." Rob pauses, thinking over what he says next. "And why are you worried for me?" Roslyn blushes, embarrassed. "You're gone a week and return home with new bruises and a scar. I can only wonder what happened. And you wouldn't tell me what happened, so I can only wonder if you're worse than you're letting on." Rob's quiet for a moment. "I fell off my horse," Rob tells her quietly. "I'm sorry. Nothing bad happened. I got distracted, fell, and landed on a bunch of rocks. A piece of my armor got bent and scratched my side, hence the scar." "Why didn't you just say that? Why would you lie?" Rob hesitates. "I don't know. I was embarrassed. All of my other scars are from the battlefield, and here I get this one just from falling off my horse." He laughs lightly to himself. "What happened to all that talk about trusting each other in this marriage?" Roslyn asks, before she can filter her thoughts. Rob sighs, and Roslyn looks away from him, feeling guilty. "I know, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lied, I didn't want you to think little of me." "Oh. Though you probably think less of me more for lying to you now." He looks to her hopefully, as if he thinks she might contradict him. What he says is the truth though, and so she can't find it in herself to disagree. Until she remembers her father's threats, and how she must keep her husband happy. "I would never think less of you, Your Grace. You're my husband, my king, and I would never think less of you." "Ros." "Excuse me, Your Grace," Roslyn says as she stands up. "I have to go." Chapter 7, The Art of Seduction. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. Roslyn had to act quickly. For 3 weeks she and Rob had been married, and yet they had only coupled 3 times. Twice on their wedding night, and once in the early morning that followed. He had been extra attentive to her since their conversation in the September, but he hadn't made any effort in bedding her. Her father's threat was looming in the back of her mind. How he wanted a Stark heir within a year. She would have to act quickly to ensure that would happen. She had already tried to woo him the other week. A few days after Rob returned from the Dread Fort, it had been his name day. She had made him a tunic for a gift, a deep blue one since Sangza had said blue was his favorite color, and she and Rukun had woken up early to make him a cake. Rob had seemed pleased with both the tunic and the cake, but still had not made any advances towards her. He had slept next to her every night of his return, but had yet to sleep with her. Since then, Rosalind had developed a new plan. One she had been working on every day. The plan was far out of her comfort zone, but she didn't know what else to do. She was going to seduce her husband. She wasn't very skilled in the art of seduction, but one pro of having so many sisters was that she had received plenty of advice over the years. Since the night of Rob's name day, Rosalind had been working on a new dress. It was a bright red, for that's what Wyler and Wilder always wore around a potential suitor. It was the color they had worn the day they met Rob. The dress was tight-fitting and had a low neckline, something Rosalind wasn't entirely used to, but when she looked in the mirror she was pleased with what she saw. She looked just like Wyler would have. She had put her hair down, in tight, flowing curls that fell past her shoulders, and painted her lips. She was sitting in her chair, working on the quilt she was making for Rukun and nursing her third glass of wine, as she waited for her husband to return to their chambers for the night. About an hour later, Rob entered their chambers, closing the door behind him and walking over to the wardrobe to take his doublet off. "How has your evening been, my lady?" Rob asked. Her heart stung as he said it. He had barely called her by her name since he returned. She hadn't called him by his name either, but she thought that was to be expected. She sits up straighter, realizing her dress is covered by the quilt and that he can't quite see her. "It was good. Rukun had me read him 3 stories after dinner, and then I came here and have been working on my sewing," she tells him, as she tries to think of something seductive to say. Rob nods, taking off his doublet and then his tunic, standing there shirtless and perfect. "I can tell him to stop pestering you if you'd like. He can be quite bossy when we let him." She takes a deep breath. "I don't mind," Rosalind tells him honestly. "I used to read my siblings countless stories before bed." Rob nods again, and Rosalind stands up, folding the quilt and putting it away as she tries to think of her next move. She had been hoping it would come naturally to her, the same way it had to all of her other married sisters. She can hear Rob turn to look at her, and she can hear his sharp intake of breath. She looks over at him, and sees his mouth falling open, as though he's at a loss for words. Rosalind smiles happily to herself, before attempting a seductive smile at him. She thinks it works, for Rob quickly straightens up. "That's a lovely dress," Rob tells her, a slight blush to his cheeks. "Oh, this," Rosalind coos. She walks over to him and grabs his hand, bringing it to her stomach where the fabric is wrapped tightly around her. "I made it ages ago," she lies. "Isn't it soft?" She can feel her face heat up, and worries her countenance is now as red as her gown, but that can't be helped, so she tries not to think on it. Rob nods, his eyes following his hand as it travels about her stomach, following the seam of the bodice. He's looking at her hungrily, the same way he did the night of their wedding, and Rosalind fumbles for what to do next. "Come. Sit with me," she says, pulling him to sit at the foot of their bed. She sits down next to him, their legs touching, and turns to face him, puffing her chest, and his gaze falls down to it just as she hoped it would. He looks up at her, his eyes meeting hers, a question in them. Rosalind nods smallly at him, and leans in, closing her eyes, waiting for his lips to meet hers. She waits an achingly long time, but refusing to open her eyes and ruin the moment, she grabs his hands and pulls them to the back of her dress, where the laces wait, ready to be untied, hoping that will be enough. His fingers seem to play with the laces briefly, before she feels him pull away and laugh. Rosalind opens her eyes at that, snapping out of it and looking at her husband confused. "I'm sorry," he says between laughs, hunching over as he struggles to contain himself. "I just find this entirely too amusing." "Whatever do you mean?" Rosalind asks, angry and embarrassed. "Mostly embarrassed." This Rob motions over to her and her dress. "It's entirely charming, but you didn't need to seduce me as such. I would have kissed you if you had asked." He says it like it's so obviously the truth, which Rosalind can't find it in herself to agree with. "He's barely touched her since being home." "Is that so?" she asks bitterly. "You never made me ask before. And you haven't exactly been all too a loving husband these last few weeks." Rob flinches at that, and Rosalind backpedals, suddenly remembering her place. "I'm sorry, Your Grace. I shouldn't have spoken so out of turn." "No, it's all right. You're right. My mind has been elsewhere since returning home. He straightens up and turns to look at her once more. I didn't want to upset you. And I fear you've been afraid of me since the morning we started heading to Winterfell. I hadn't been too nice to you and didn't want to scare you further. You were grieving, Roslyn tells him. I understand that all too well. So you'll forgive me. Of course, Your Grace. Robb, he corrects. Robb, she says. He then leans forward and pulls her against him, kissing her sweetly. Roslyn kisses him back with just as much passion, melting into his touch. It's not long before Robb's pulling at the laces of her dress, gently pulling it off her. When the dress is pulled at her waist, she arches her back to him, granting him more access as he sucks on the hardening peaks of her breasts. Later, when they've coupled not once, but twice, Roslyn lays against his chest as she traces shapes into his muscles and he threads his fingers through her hair. Do you think I'll be with child now? She asks Robb contentedly. Perhaps, Robb guesses. I do hope so. My father will not be pleased if I'm not. Robb tenses at this, she can feel his every muscle contract beneath her. He can't hurt you. Not while you're here. And besides, I made a vow to protect you. I don't take my vows lightly. I know, Roslyn tells him. And she does. She knows all about the Starks and their honor. That's not why you did this. Robb asks, interrupting her. You didn't seduce me for your father's benefit, did you? Roslyn's at a loss for words. She did miss being close to him, but it was fear of her father that really drove her decision. I. Robb sits up, gently placing her off of him. Why would you do that? It's my job to provide you with an heir, she argues. I only did what was expected of me. No. Stop lying, Robb says. He looks betrayed. It makes Roslyn feel awful. I'm not lying. Roslyn says, getting defensive. She sits up and pulls the covers against her chest, feeling exposed. My entire life, I have never, not once, disappointed my father. I will not start now. You don't know what he does to people who disappoint him. Are you saying he hits his daughters? Robb asks, looking genuinely concerned. No. Of course not. He doesn't hurt girls. But if I fail him, Oliver will pay for it. Or Perwyn or Wally. I'm not going to be the cause of any of their pain. I won't do it. Roslyn says. She's near tears at this point. Robb softens at this, slowly pulling her back against him. Of course we will have children, he assures her. If you're not with child by the end of the year, we'll simply tell your father you are and months later you can lose the baby. He won't hurt you. He won't hurt your brothers. Not if I can help it. Thank you, Roslyn tells him sincerely. But I don't want you to feel pressured to lie with me for the sake of a child. I want you to do it because you enjoy it, because you want to do it. I do enjoy it, Roslyn whispers shyly. A blush creeping up her face. Robb looks down at her and smiles. Good, he says. I do too. At that he leans forward and kisses her sweetly. He doesn't bed her though. He just kisses her a while and then wishes her a good night. Notes. Hi guys. I hope everyone is having a good start to their weekend. This is the last chapter I have pre-written, so it may be a while before a new chapter is posted. I'm going to try and write tonight though, so we'll see. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Chapter 8, A Second Wedding. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. In the days that followed, Roslyn and Robb got along infinitely better. Every morning, they'd break their fast together, and then they'd go off and tend to their separate responsibilities. Roslyn would finish with her tasks much sooner than Robb, and so she would either sew, read, write to her sisters, or spend time with Rickon. Then she'd go and get ready for dinner, and would eat in the Great Hall, sitting with Robb, Jon, and Rickon. After dinner, the three boys and Roslyn would take the direwolves for a walk. With Rickon running ahead of them with the wolves, and Robb, Roslyn, and Jon walking leisurely behind. Things with her and Robb weren't perfect, but they were better than they had ever been. She still wasn't sure if he loved her or if he was just pretending. Her father did that, sometimes. He would pretend to care for Roslyn, pretend to be sweet and loving, before his true intentions were revealed, and it turned out he really just wanted something from her or her siblings. Like a fool, Rosalind would fall for it every time. With each day that passed, she thought less and less that this was some cruel trick on Rob's part, but she could never be too careful so as to be on alert. On this particular evening, John has himself and Rukun turn in sooner than normal, so that Rob and Rosalind may have some time alone. Their Godswood wedding is tomorrow night. All the preparations are ready, and Rosalind finds herself much more excited for this wedding as opposed to her first one. Rob seems to be excited, too. Rosalind is equally excited that in a few days, they head to the Dread Fort for Sangza and Theon's wedding. She had been writing to her good sister about it back and forth. All the preparations were nearly ready, and Sangza didn't seem nervous at all, but rather overjoyed. Rosalind had been making both her married and her maiden cloaks and was nearly finished. She was telling Rob of her sewing as they walked through the Godswood together. And on the hood, I plan to line it with snowflakes, she tells him. Rob nods. I must be boring you. I'm sorry. What should we talk about instead? Honey, you could talk about each individual stitch you made, and it still wouldn't bore me. Rob tells her sweetly, causing Rosalind to blush. Are you nervous for tomorrow? Rosalind asks, changing the subject, for she's sure he's tired to hear of her sewing by now. Not nervous, no. I'll be rather happy to get married in front of the old gods. Why? You're not nervous, are you? Only a little, Rosalind admitted. Rob looked at her curiously, and so she continued. I fear the North folk may not like me, they aren't very fond of outsiders. Rob squeezed her hand assuringly. You're not an outsider. You're my wife. My queen. They'll love you. It may take time, but they will. Rosalind smiles at him. Thank you. I suppose I'm also sad that my siblings can't be here. Her father had only allowed for Oliver to come, so that Rosalind would have someone to give her away. The rest of her siblings weren't allowed because Walder didn't want them to make the journey when they had already seen her get married not that long ago. Never mind the fact that she missed them. No. Walder Free didn't care about that. I am sorry about that. I tried to convince your father, but he wouldn't be swayed. Rosalind knew all about this. Rob had sent 3 different ravens on her behalf trying to get him to change his mind. It's not your doing, Rosalind tells him. Not knowing what to say, Rob squeezes Rosalind's hand, before bringing it to his lips and kissing it sweetly. Hours later, the two of them are in their chamber, readying for bed. Rosalind sits at her vanity as she pulls back her hair into a loose braid. And Rob stands by his wardrobe, undressing. I still think we should spend the night separately, Rosalind tells him jokingly. It was a topic Mayor Stillowin had briefly brought up when discussing the wedding preparations, saying even though they were already married, it was the standard custom. He dropped the topic, however, when Rob blatantly dismissed the idea. Rob finishes taking his clothes off, and then walks over to her, leaning down behind her and lightly kissing her neck, his stubble tickling her lightly, causing her to giggle. Not funny, he whispers in her ear, lightly biting the shell of it. He stands her up and pulls her against him, happy to feel her melt into him. He kisses her a while and then sets her on the bed gently, before remembering something. I have something for you, he tells her between kisses. He reluctantly pulls away from her, and walks over to his desk. He grabs a small jewelry box from a drawer, and hands it to her. Rosalind smiles up at him, before looking down at the box in her hands. She opens it carefully, and gasps when she sees a ring sitting in the box. Sorry it took so long to get you a ring, Rob tells her. I had to make sure it was okay with Sangza before I gave you that one. It was my mother's. Do you like it? It was an elegant ring, with a larger cushion-cut diamond and then 2 small triangular sapphires on either side. It's beautiful. Rosalind tells him honestly. She slides it on her finger and then looks at her hand happily. Are you sure Sangza's okay with me having it? Yes. I've already packed away the jewelry of my mother's that she did want. I'll bring that when we go to the Dread Fort. And Theon said his sister is bringing a ring for Sangza. One that belonged to their mother. That will be nice. Yes, it will, Rob agrees. He takes her hand in his and twines their fingers, looking happily at the ring on her finger. The next morning, Rosalind wakes up tangled in Rob's embrace. She smiles to herself, and pushes his hair out of his face before attempting to climb out of bed. Rob's grip on her tightens, however, making it near impossible to escape his grasp. It's still early, he tells her sleepily, not even opening his eyes. Stay in bed. I have to get ready, Roslyn argues, though she's not sure why. She'd much rather continue to lay in bed with him. The ceremony is not until tonight, Rob tells her, pulling her back against him. But I told Rukun I'd go for a walk with him and Shagadoke this morning. John will take him. But someone needs to tell John to take him. Roslyn tries to reason again. He'll figure it out. Roslyn sighs, that seems like reason enough to her, and so she cuddles deeper into her husband's arms. Rob kisses her forehead, and she can feel the smile on his lips. Clearly he's happy at having convinced her to stay. Roslyn's happy he's happy. And what shall we do instead, dear husband? Waste the day away by lying here. Sounds like a perfectly good day to me. Rob tells her brightly. Nothing bad can happen today, it's our wedding day after all. Nothing bad can happen at a wedding. Roslyn only laughs lightly at that, despite the fact that she disagrees. Bad things can happen any day, she thinks, wedding or no wedding. She doesn't tell him that, though. Roslyn had made a newer, simpler wedding dress, since the skirt of her old one had been torn beyond repair, but kept her same old maiden and married clothes. She wore her hair down this time, only braiding back a few pieces to keep it out of her face. Roslyn had thought it would take her much longer to get ready, as she didn't have her sisters to help her this time, but she found it did not. She was ready with an hour to spare, and so she sat at her desk, writing a letter to her sisters that Oliver could bring home. Dear Audrey. I miss you terribly. I feel like a stranger in the north. I don't hate it or anything. My husband and good brothers are doing a good job at trying to make me feel welcome, but there's nothing familiar about it and that makes it feel lonely at times. The only familiar thing is the September. I try to pray in it daily, and I find that does help with my homesickness. Tonight is my second wedding ceremony, in the Godswood. I wish you and the others could be here for it. The Godswood is really beautiful, and I think you'd all love to see it. But you especially though. I know you never really cared for the faith of the Seven, but perhaps you'd like the old gods. In a few days I head to the Dread Fort for Sansa's wedding. She seems really excited. I'm excited too. It will be nice to see somewhere new, even if it is just more northern land. I'm also excited to meet Theon Greyjoy, new Lord of the Dread Fort and Sansa's betrothed. He grew up a ward of the Starks and so it will be interesting to see what he's like. Rob talks about him a lot. They're good friends. I have to finish this up now, it's almost time for the ceremony. Give Minnie and the others my love. I miss you. Love. Roslyn. Roslyn finished up her letter and folded it up, leaving it on her desk to give to Oliver later. She hears a knock at her door and goes to open it. She's surprised to see John there, and not Oliver like she expected. Good evening, Lady Stark, are you ready? John asks. Nearly, Roslyn tells him, grabbing her maiden cloak from the back of the chair and securing it around her shoulders. Where's my brother? I thought he would be the one to escort me to the Godswood. A raven arrived, he went to answer it. He should be back in time for the ceremony, but we can wait for him if you'd like. Roslyn remembers the last time a raven came at her wedding. The bad news it contained, about Lady Catelyn and Lord Stannis. She remembers how mad Rob was that he hadn't been informed. No, it's all right. No sense in waiting. Roslyn tells him. She takes his offered arm and he leads her to the Godswood. They get to the entrance, and Roslyn can see Rob standing at the weirwood, waiting for her. He smiles when he sees her, his smile widening when their eyes meet. She ducks her head shyly, feeling a blush creep on her cheeks. This wedding ceremony is much simpler than the first, and therefore takes much less time. Where the last one took more than 2 hours, this one takes no more than 20 minutes. Oliver doesn't show up though, and Roslyn doesn't even notice this until the end. She and Rob seal their union, again, with a kiss, and only when he pulls away from her, and Roslyn looks around at the crowd surrounding them, does she notice her brother is not among them. She steps closer to Rob, who instinctively wraps his arm protectively around her waist. What's wrong? He whispers, looking around. My brother's not here. John said he was answering a raven. Just then, they see Oliver walk into the entrance of the Godswood. His eyes are red. Like he'd been crying. Oliver never cries. Rosalind can feel her heart quicken. She clutches her chest and covers her mouth, stifling a cry. Something bad has happened on her wedding day. Again. Rosalind is sitting in Rob's solar, her legs curled into herself as Greywind, Shagged Oak, and Ghost all cuddle around her, trying to comfort her. She hears Rob, Oliver, John, and Mayor Stillowin talking around her, but she doesn't hear what they are saying. It doesn't matter, nothing can be done. Her sisters are dead. All her pure-blood sisters are gone. Wyler, Wilder, Audrey. Apparently some sort of deathly flu took them out in the night. At least that's what her father said, in his raven to Oliver. She didn't know what state her other siblings were in, and it was killing her. She thought of Minnie, of little Wally, and baby Eleanor. She doesn't know if any of them are okay. They could be dead too, and her father just doesn't care enough to tell her. I wrote to Pawin asking for more details, she hears Oliver say, snapping her out of her thoughts. What of Pawin? Is he alright? And what of Ben Fry and Willerman too? It will still be days before he gets the raven, and more days before we hear back. Mayor Stillowin says. I know. I plan to head back to the twins in the morning, instead of going to the princess's wedding. I'll bring Rosalind with me, for the funerals, and then bring her back when that's done. Your father said the sickness is still spreading. You can't bring her there and risk her health. What if she's with child? Rosalind clutches her stomach tightly, she hadn't thought of that. She's due for Moon's blood in a little more than a week. She doubts she's with child, and the thought makes her sadder than before. Mayor Stillowin is right, Rob speaks up. We're not going to risk her health. She can stay here in Winterfell, with John, while Rookon and I go to the wedding. I'm going to the wedding, Rosalind speaks up for the first time, causing them all to turn to look at her. You don't have to, Rob tells her sweetly. Sansa will understand, if you're too grief-stricken. I'm going to the wedding. Rosalind says again. We're not going to tell Sansa a thing. I'll not be an effort to ruin her special day. I told her I'd help her get ready. I'm all she has to help her. I told her I'd be there, and I'm not a liar. I'll be there. Rosalind, Rob starts. She turns to him. Do you forbid me from going, Your Grace? She asks him. What? No. Of course not. Then I'm going. Decision made. Excuse me. Rosalind gets up and walks out of the room, the three direwolves trailing behind her. She had planned to go straight to her room and cry herself to sleep, but she runs into Rookon in the hall. Ro. He says excitedly, oblivious to all the tragedy she's just learned of. He rushes forward and pets all three wolves. Will you read me a story before bed? Rosalind sniffles, and then bites her lip. Pull yourself together, she thinks. Of course. Rookon takes her hand. He does so out of habit now, and leads her down the hall to his chambers. She tucks him into bed and reads him the story of Jenny of Oldstones, finishing off by singing the song to him as he drifts off to sleep. High in the halls of the kings who are gone, Jenny would dance with her ghosts. The ones she had lost and the ones she had found. And the ones who had loved her the most. Rookon smiles sleepily when she's done. That was my mother's favorite story, he tells her. Is that so? Rosalind asks. Rookon nods. She used to sing the song to us, too. She said when she was a girl she'd put flowers in her hair and pretend to be Jenny while her family's ward pretended to be Duncan. Sansa used to do it too, and made Theon be Duncan for her. He didn't like it, but he always did it. Is that what love is? Rosalind smiles sadly. Yes, she tells him sweetly. That's what love is. Sometimes anyway. Theon must love Sansa a lot. I'm sure he does. Rob loves you a lot, too. John says he sees it in the way he looks at you. I don't know what that means. He can see love. Seems silly to me. Rosalind laughs lightly, but the thought warms her heart a little. She leans down and kisses her little brother's forehead. Good night, Rookon. Good night, Ro. She goes to get up but his little hand grabs hers. Ro. Yes, Rick. I love you. You're a good sister. I just wanted to tell you in case you can't see it. Roslyn can feel her heart crack in her chest. Thank you, Rukun. That means a lot. I love you too. Rukun smiles, and lets go of her hand. Roslyn rushes out of there, knowing she's very nearly on the verge of tears. She goes to her and Rob's chambers and slams the door behind her, happy to see that Rob isn't there. She doesn't want him to see her crying. Her eyes catch on the letter on her desk. The letter she'll never get to send. The letter to the sister she'll never see again. She angrily takes the letter and crumbles it in her hands, before throwing it in the fire. She crumbles to the ground then, crying her sorrows away as she curls up in the corner of the room. High in the halls of the kings who are gone, Jenny would dance with her ghosts. The ones she had lost and the ones she had found. And the ones who had loved her the most. She can feel all sorts of ghosts with her now, dancing around her. The ghost of her mother, her good mother and good father. Her sisters. It's too bad she doesn't care to dance with them. They twirl around and blur her vision and drown out the sound of her tears, until she cries herself to sleep. Notes. Did you know most of Roslyn's siblings, like full siblings, didn't make it to adulthood? I didn't, that's what I get for doing my research as I go, lol. To keep things somewhat canon compliant, I've added this whole, disease killing her siblings subplot, not the happiest of subplots, but this is the Game of Thrones, so one could say it was to be expected. And I know Wyler and Walder were 18 and so technically adults and whatnot, but barely, so we're going to go with it. Yikes. Also, apparently Oliver and Roslyn are twins. I had no idea, but we can say they are in this one. Why not? But other than that, I think I need to stop researching Roslyn Free because it's leading to way too many plot holes lol. It's not like this story is too canon compliant though, so I suppose it could be worse. Chapter 9, Days of Grief and Happiness. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. Roslyn wakes up to Rob carrying her to bed. He's trying to be gentle, so as not to wake her, but Roslyn was in such a light sleep that she knows any noise or movement would have done it. She leans into his chest and his arms tighten around her. You shouldn't sleep on the floor, he whispers to her. Roslyn shrugs, but doesn't say anything. He holds her with one arm as he pulls back the covers and lays her down gently. Is there anything I can do? Rob asks, as he pulls the quilt around her and tucks her in. Lay with me. Roslyn whispers, looking up at him hesitantly. Rob smiles at her. Of course. He crawls in next to her and wraps his arms around her tightly, pulling her against him. She leans her head to his chest and closes her eyes, fighting back tears. Rob runs his fingers through her hair and tries to think of something comforting to say, but he doesn't know what. You don't have to go, Rob tells her again. You can stay here with John. Sansa wouldn't be mad. I know, Roslyn tells him. I do. I know that. But, I just want everything to be as normal as possible. I don't want to have time to sit and wallow. That's all I'll end up doing. Rob sighs, but he understands. Okay. If that's what you want. That's what I want. She confirms. The days pass slowly, but Roslyn finds that she does feel a little better each day. Not much, but a little. When the day comes to head to the Dread Fort, Roslyn finds herself more down than before. She thinks it's because she'll have more time to think, spending the next 3 days sitting alone in the wheelhouse. Nonetheless, there is nothing she can do about it, so she finishes braiding her hair and heads outside. Keep it together, she tells herself. It's a small group of them heading to the Dread Fort. Just her, Rob, Rukun, and Roderick Castle, along with 50 soldiers. She goes outside and sees Rukun on a horse, talking to Greywind and Shaggydoke who are circling below him excitedly. Good morning, Rukun. She tells him. Walking over and petting the horse. Morning, Ro. He says back. That's a pretty horse. You think? Rob says I get a horse for my name a day. But I want a bigger one than this. He's short, practically a pony. Roslyn laughs despite herself. She thinks of Ilya, her name day is soon, she hopes she'll live to see it. Keep it together. Your name day is soon, Rukun remembers. Do you want a horse for your name day too? No, I don't think so, Roslin mumbles. What do you want instead? Sangza loves getting dresses, do you want one? I don't need anything, Rick. But thank you for thinking of me. She pets the horse slowly, willing herself not to cry. She can't bring herself to think of happy things, like name days and presents. Rob walks over, and wraps an arm around Roslin's waist, pulling her to him and kissing her forehead sweetly. Are you both ready to go? He asks. Yep. Rukun says excitedly. The wolves are ready too. Isn't that right, Shaggy? Grey whined. The two direwolves bark excitedly. Are you ready? Rob asks Roslin. Roslin hums in confirmation, but she doesn't meet his eye. She can feel tears welling in her eyes and doesn't want him to see. She walks over to Rob's horse, where John is standing. Goodbye, Lady Stark, John tells her sweetly. He can see her eyes are red, but he doesn't say anything, which she is grateful for. I hope you're able to enjoy yourself on this trip. I'm sure I will, Roslin demurs. John opens his arms to her, and she walks into his embrace. His hug is comforting, it reminds her of Oliver. She worries for her brother then, as he's riding home to the twins. He'll be there any day now, dealing with the aftermath of it all. She hopes he's okay. She clutches John tighter. A moment later, she lets go of him, and Mayor Stillowin walks over. I wish you safe travels, Lady Stark. And a joyous time. Please give Lady Sangza my love, and Lord Greyjoy too. He tells her. Of course, Mayor Stillowin. I'll be glad to. Roslin smiles at him, and then hugs him, too. She's grown rather fond of Mayor Stillowin in her time in Winterfell. Rob joins them and once again pulls her against him, kissing her cheek this time. Take good care of Winterfell while we're gone, please, Rob tells John, as he hugs his brother. Of course, John tells him. Winterfell will be eagerly awaiting your return, Your Grace, Mayor Stillowin tells him. Rob smiles at them both, and then hoists Roslin onto his horse, before climbing up behind her. The journey to the Dread Fort is uneventful. They make it there in good time. On the evening of their arrival, Theon and Sangza stand outside to greet them. Sangza! Rukun yells excitedly. He jumps from his horse, falling to the ground, causing everyone around him to slightly panic. He doesn't seem to care though, he just stands up and runs to his sister. Rukun! Sangza says, just as excited. Are you alright? That was quite a fall. I'm fine. I missed you. He hugs her tighter, and Sangza does as well. I missed you, too. Sangza tells him. Rob gets down from the horse, and helps Roslin down as well, before walking over to Theon. It's good to see you, Rob tells him, pulling him into a hug. You as well, Theon agrees. Next, Rob goes and hugs Sangza so enthusiastically he lifts her from the ground. Roslin stands there, unsure of what to do, when Theon walks over to her. Lady Roslin, he says with a bow. It's a pleasure to meet you. Sangza has told me a great deal about you. Roslin curtsies to him and smiles. Lord Greyjoy. My husband has told me a great deal about you as well. Theon smiles at this, and the two of them look over to the three Stark siblings who are chatting happily with each other. Shall we head inside? Theon asks them all. He walks over to Sangza to offer her his arm, but Rukun grabs her hand, and then Roslin's too, leading them inside before Theon or Rob can stop him. Should we be worried that they both may prefer Rukun to us? Rob asks, as he and Theon follow behind them, the two direwolves at their heels. He appears to be both serious and jesting. Rukun hasn't seen Sangza in a while, Theon reasons. What's your excuse for Lady Roslin? Rob makes to say something, but then shakes his head. Theon. Rukun calls out, turning to look behind him. Can we practice archery tomorrow? I think I've been getting worse. Theon chuckles. Sure, Rick. You, Rob, and I can go to the training yard in the early morning. Rukun cheers excitedly. Roslin makes her best effort to appear content at dinner. But it's been a long journey, and her tiredness and exhaustion makes her grief feel ever present, so she knows Sangza knows something is up. Roslyn tries to brush it off, blaming it on the exhaustion and then making plans for the two of them to sew together in the morning. Sangza seems weary but agrees, before joining the conversation with Theon, her brothers, and Queen Asha, while Roslyn sits there quietly. When dinner is done, Roslyn is quick to excuse herself. Rukun protests, and she can tell Rob wants to too, for there's supposed to be music and dancing soon, but Roslyn needs a moment alone. She tells them all she's tired and just wants to lie down in her chambers. It's not a lie. The days on horseback really have worn her out, and she thinks she could do with some extra sleep. I can go with you, Rob offers. No. Please don't. Stay with Sangza. Have fun. Please. Roslyn tells him. Rob hesitates, before sighing in acquiescence. Very well. At least let me escort you back to our chamber. Roslyn knows he won't relent, and so she nods. Rob threads her arm through his and begins to lead her down the hall. How are you feeling? Rob asks, as they walk down the empty hallway. I'm fine, Roslyn tells him, but her voice cracks on the words and she lets out a sob. She covers her mouth with her hand to stifle the sound. Rob stops walking, and takes her face in his hands as he looks down at her. She doesn't want to meet his gaze. She knows if she does, she'll start crying. And she's worried if she starts crying, she'll never be able to stop. Roslyn, he begs. Tell me what I can do to make it better, and I'll do it. I want you to be happy. Please tell me what I can do. Roslyn shakes her head. There's nothing you can do. I'm fine, really. I just want to be alone for a while. That's all. Rob wants to disagree, but he doesn't want to make her feel worse. If she wants to be alone, he'll let her, if only for a little while. Very well. He leads her all the way to their room, and stands at the door awkwardly for a minute before leaving. When Roslyn is finally alone, she calls for a bath. 2 servants come by and bring some hot water, and she sits in the water for an hour crying silently. The water's cold when she finally washes her hair and puts on her nightgown. Her face is red, and her eyes are dry and all out of tears. She crawls into bed and curls into herself. She's not sure when she falls asleep, but she must, because she wakes to the sound of Rob coming into the room. Sorry, he whispers, looking over at her. I didn't mean to wake you. It's all right, Roslyn whispers back. She straightens up and touches her face to see if it feels tear-stained or not. She can't tell, but it's dark in the room, so she hopes Rob won't be able to tell either. Rob undresses and then climbs into bed, pulling her against his chest. She cuddles into him, and his arms tighten around her. How was the rest of the night? Roslyn asks, as she absent-mindedly traces shapes on his chest. It was good. Sangza and Theon seem really happy. I'm glad. Roslyn tells him honestly. Rob kisses her hair. You'll have to dance with me tomorrow, Rob tells her. I danced with Sangza, but she made me dance with Asha too. You'll spare us both from that if you're there tomorrow. Rob laughs. Roslyn laughs lightly with him. Of course, Your Grace, she says automatically. She didn't mean to say it, and she can feel him tense beneath her. I'm sorry, Rob. I didn't mean to say it. I know. Rob tells her. I just wish you didn't say it so naturally. I'm sorry. It's a force of habit. I don't even realize I say it half the time. Rob rubs her back understandingly. We'll just have to break you of the habit then, he says charmingly. He leans down and kisses her cheek. He pulls away after that, though. That's something he'd been doing in the last few days. He was always very affectionate. Rubbing her back, kissing her cheek or forehead, pulling her to him whenever he saw her. But he'd barely touched her since their second wedding. Like he was scared to. She knew he was just trying to be respectful, but it pained her a little. It made her worried he was losing interest in her. But then she would catch him staring at her, with his beautiful, charming, dreamy blue eyes. She'd remember what Rukun had said, about John being able to see how much Rob loves her, and all her worries would disappear. Feeling happy, Roslyn turns around in his arms and kisses him sweetly. Rob doesn't pull back like she thought he might, but rather deepens the kiss, pulling at her nightgown until it's off her and on the floor. Notes. Hi guys. I hope everyone is having a great day. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. I love reading them. Chapter 10, Time at the Dread Fort. Summary. Mentions of violence, but not any actual display of it. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. The next morning, Roslyn wakes early, before the sun, feeling sick to her stomach. As careful and quickly as she can, she entangles herself from Rob and runs to the chamber pot. She throws up her dinner, and feels so queasy she lays on the ground for about 10 minutes. But then the wave passes and she feels fine. The sun still hasn't risen, but she knows she won't be able to fall back asleep, and so she gets dressed and continues to work on Sansa's married cloak. She's finished the maiden one, but has yet to start on the embroidery for her married one, because she wanted to make sure she replicated the new sigil correctly. Theon had changed the Dread Fort sigil from the flayed man to a grey banner with a golden bow and arrow. Roslyn had seen the banner displayed proudly throughout the castle, and so now she knew exactly how to begin embroidering the cloak. Not wanting to wake Rob up by lighting a candle or two, she takes the cloak and her sewing supplies and goes to the Great Hall, where some of the servants are setting up for breakfast, and sits in the corner and begins to embroider. An hour or so later, Rickon comes running into the Great Hall. "I found her, Rob," he shouts excitedly. He runs over to Roslyn and hugs her. "Good morning, Rick," she tells him, hugging him back. "Morning, Ro." Rob comes rushing into the room, almost at a run, and does not stop until he's right at her side. "You weren't in bed this morning," Rob tells her, panicked. "I was worried something happened. I couldn't sleep. I'm sorry." She looks over at her husband and guilt churns in her stomach, making her feel queasy again. Rob's hair is disheveled, and his undershirt is completely unbuttoned. He must have seen her not in bed and immediately rushed to look for her. Rickon, too, is in similar disarray. His hair is just as messy, as if he too had gotten up straight from sleep, but, having slept in night clothes, he is fully dressed. Roslyn is grateful that very few are awake, so they don't see the king in the north so disheveled. She stands up and sets the cloak aside, before walking to Rob and kissing his cheek. She brings her hands to his shirt and begins fastening the buttons. Rob's hands find her waist immediately, as if he gets reassurance in her touch. "I thought maybe you had gone to check on Rickon," he tells her, his heart still racing. "But then you weren't there either." Roslyn finishes the last button and then looks up at him apologetically. "I'm sorry," she says again. "I hadn't meant to worry you. Now go get dressed before more people see you as such." She runs a hand through his hair, smoothing it out. "I'll help Rickon get ready." Rob takes a deep breath, and then nods. "I'll meet you back here for breakfast?" he asks. Sure, Roslyn agrees. Rob kisses her goodbye and then walks off. "Come Rickon, let's go get you ready." "Okay," Rickon says. He takes Roslyn's offered hand and the two head towards his chamber. Roslyn picks out his outfit. The only thing Rickon is insistent upon wearing is his belt with a sword sheath for frostbite. When he's ready, Roslyn and him are about to walk back to the Great Hall, when Roslyn feels another bout of sickness coming on. She walks Rickon to the Great Hall, and then rushes away again. She's happy to not run into anyone in the halls, so they don't see her as such. She's surprised, though, that Rob isn't in their chamber when she arrives. He wasn't in the Great Hall either. She doesn't have time to ponder his whereabouts any further though, as her sickness overtakes her again. Some time later, she hears the door open and Rob walks in. "Roslyn?" he asks worriedly. He rushes to her side when he sees her. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," she tells him. She quickly wipes her brow when she realizes he's right next to her, suddenly very self-conscious of her appearance. Rob doesn't seem to care though. He rubs her back and looks at her with worried eyes. "You don't look fine," Rob tells her very matter-of-factly. "Gee, thanks," she thinks to herself. "Dinner just hasn't been agreeing with me." "I'm fine, Rob, really." "Hasn't been?" Rob questions. "You said you couldn't sleep. Were you sick this morning too?" Roslyn's lack of answer is answer enough. "Roslyn." Rob admonishes. Let me go get the maester, will you be alright for a few minutes? Rosalind straightens up. There's no need. I feel better, really. Roslyn. I promise. I'm fine. If I get sick again, I'll see the maester. I promise. But as of right now, there's nothing he can do. I'm not sick, just a little queasy. It will pass. Rob's about to disagree, but Rosalind stops him with a hand to his chest. I promise, she tells him again. Okay, Rob concedes. Perhaps you should lay down for a little. No, I told Sansa I'd help her with sewing. I'll be fine. It's mostly sitting down. Will you ever let me take care of you? Rob asks, helping Rosalind stand up and then tucking her hair out of her face. Rosalind smiles at him, touched by his sincerity. You do take care of me, she tells him. She walks over to the mirror and takes a washcloth, wiping the sweat off her face. Not in the ways I want to. He says quietly. And how do you wish to care for me? Rosalind asks, jestingly. Rob walks up to her and wraps his arms around her, looking at her through the mirror in front of them. Rosalind leans back into him, and he kisses her cheek. I would like for you to see the maester, he says. So I can be assured you're okay. I will, Rosalind tells him. If I feel sick again. Rob sighs, leaning forward and resting his face in the crook of her neck. She turns her head towards him, about to kiss his cheek, when he tickles her side. She laughs, giggles really, despite herself. She swats his hand away and smiles at him. Ticklish? He asks, challengingly. I haven't the slightest clue what you mean. She stands on her tiptoes and kisses his cheek, before making to walk away. Rob grabs her hand before she can get far, and pulls her against him. He kisses her once, twice, then 2 more times, before pulling back. I'll see you later, she tells him. He lets her walk away this time. After all his stress and worry this morning, Rob finds himself full of energy in the training yard, as he duels with Sir Roderick. Theon and Rickon are off to the side practicing their archery. Sir Roderick makes Theon switch places with him halfway through, claiming he's not as young as he used to be and Theon will be a more well-matched opponent. No fair, Rickon complains. I still need him to help with my archery. Practice what I told you, Theon tells him. You'll get better. Rickon makes a large show of planting his feet squarely in the ground, just as Theon told him to do, and aims and releases the arrow. Everyone is satisfied to see him hit the target. Rob and Theon begin to spar, and Rob's glad it's much more well-matched than with Sir Roderick. He needs to get some of his energy and frustration out from the morning. He's still worried for Roslyn. She seemed fine on the ride here, and so maybe it is just food poisoning from dinner, but he can't help but worry it has to do with something else. He swings his sword with such force he nearly knocks Theon off his feet. Whoa! Theon laughs. He strikes back briskly, making Rob stumble backward. A lot on your mind? Theon asks. The 2 men continue to duel as Rob responds. I don't know. There's a lot going on. My wife has been sick all morning, my little sister is getting married in a few days. You're getting married in a few days? I never thought that would happen. Theon laughs at that. That makes 2 of us. But I love her. I really do. I know. I didn't like it at first, but, I know. I'll take good care of her. I know that, too. I mean it, Relax, Theon. I believe you. I'm not mad, I know you'll treat her right. Theon lets out a sigh of relief. Good. Sansa was worried you might object at the ceremony. Rob laughs, and then stops when he sees Theon's seriousness. Actually. A little, Theon confesses, but then he laughs it off. Roslyn and Sansa spend the morning sewing, and Roslyn is glad she doesn't get sick at all. Sansa works on her wedding dress while Roslyn works on the married cloak. They chat happily with each other. The 2 of them had been writing to each other weekly, and so Sansa's well versed on all that had been happening in Winterfell, just as Roslyn knew all about the recent changes to the Dread Fort. So instead of talking about serious matters, they gossip and chat about little things. It's out of nowhere when Sansa brings up the purple wedding. Last week, a raven had come that Joffrey Baratheon had been killed at his wedding to Margaery Tyrell. He had been poisoned, and his mother, Cersei, had been poisoned too, leaving Tommen Baratheon as king. Cersei and Joffrey being gone only seems to bring Sansa a little comfort. Tommen's nice, a sweet little boy. But he's still only a boy. He'll have his uncle Tyrion's guidance. Tyrion was always kind to me, but he'll have his grandfather's too. I fear any Lannister influence on the throne won't be good. Sansa says, absent-mindedly between stitches. Tywin Lannister is old, though, so he won't have long to influence Tommen anyway, Roslyn supplies. She looks at her good sister and frowns. I am sorry about what happened to you in King's Landing. Robb told me what they did to you. I can't even imagine how horrible that was. My father hurts my brothers but he's never hit me. And you were all alone. I'm sorry about that. I'm glad Lord Greyjoy was able to rescue you. Sansa smiles, a smile both happy and sad. Thank you. I'm glad, too. And it wasn't so bad. I'm stronger for it. I learned a lot when I was in King's Landing. Sansa's eyes shift. She looks over at Roslyn. Your father hurts you. Roslyn curses herself internally. She's got to stop telling people that. No. He just likes to discipline us sometimes. Never when we don't deserve it, I'm sure. Sansa clucks her tongue. Don't say that. I've met your siblings. Sure, some of them are hard to swallow, she's no doubt referring to Wyler and Walder. But Audrey and Minnie are nice. And Oliver too. You don't deserve any sort of discipline your father gives you. None of you do. Roslyn nods, biting her lip to keep from crying. Now would be the perfect time to bring up her sister's deaths, definitely the socially conventional time, but she really doesn't want to ruin the mood. Thank you, she says quietly. The two girls focus back on their sewing, and talk lightly about little things, their previous conversation clearly having worn them both out. Later in the day, Robb and Theon come by, to collect them for lunch. Robb watches Roslyn the entire time she eats, no doubt worried she'll get sick again. Roslyn makes a big show of eating her entire plate, though she does feel a little sick when she's done. She powers through, and joins in on the lively conversation Theon, Rickon, and Sansa are having, as Robb and Asher talk about the political implications of Joffrey's death. As well as everything else happening around Westeros and beyond. Slyss and Shireen Baratheon are still in hiding, Robb says. None of my scouts have heard anything. Well, what do you plan to do should they reveal themselves? Asher asks. Assuming they don't plan to have Shireen fight for the throne, they will be able to take sanctuary in Winterfell, until they feel safe to return home. Having Storm's End on our side will help a great deal. Now that the North, the Riverlands, and the Iron Islands are all in alliance, the Lannisters will have to do a lot more if they want to keep their crown. So you plan to go to King's Landing then? Or Storm's End, perhaps? To get rid of Roose Bolton. Roose Bolton can rot in hell for all I care. He can't hold Storm's End, the people have practically thrown him out already. As for King's Landing, there's too much unrest right now. I want to see how things play out under Tommen Baratheon's rule first. He's still a boy. It will be important to know who's controlling him before I plan anything. Asher nods, and then focuses on her food. If you don't go to Storm's End, do you think Roose Bolton will come here? Sansa asks worriedly. Theon takes her hand in his and kisses it reassuringly. No, Theon says. He'd be stupid to. He has no army. He'd be killed on the spot. Robb and Asher both agree with him, and Sansa seems to calm down a little. She doesn't let go of Theon's hand, though. Roslyn excuses herself from lunch not long after that, feeling rather queasy. Robb looks at her, concerned, but she merely kisses his cheek and whispers in his ear that she's fine, just wants to work on the cloak more. Robb seems satisfied with this, and lets her go. Roslyn finds the Maester, a slightly older man named Tybalt, and asks to talk to him privately. They go into Maester Tybalt's quarters, so that he may examine her. What ails you, Your Grace? I've been feeling sick all morning. I think it was just dinner from last night, but I told my husband I'd come see you if I started to feel poorly again, and I threw up my lunch just before finding you. The Maester nods, thinking it over. Did anyone else get sick from dinner? Not that I know of, no. And this is the only day you've felt sick? I felt a little uneasy while riding here, but I only threw up on the second day. I don't normally ride, so I assumed it was that. Maester Tybalt nods. And have you bled yet, this moon? No, but I'm not due for a couple of days. The day of the wedding, actually. Why? Could you possibly be with child, your grace? Roslyn falters, and then thinks it over. She and Rob had been married a little over a month. It's possible she could be carrying a wedding night babe. Rob himself had said he had been one. I suppose so, but it would be early. Does morning sickness normally start this soon? She had thought it came a little later in the first trimester. It can. Sickness varies with every pregnancy. Maester Tybalt asks her a few more questions and then examines her. You seem to be presenting enough of the symptoms. If I had to guess, I would say that you are. But come to me after the wedding. If you've bled it must be something else and I'll examine you further. I'm with child. Roslyn asks. She places a hand on her stomach excitedly. She can hardly believe it. Most likely. But it's still early, so best not to tell anyone just yet. Roslyn clutches her stomach in fear. I don't mean to worry you, your grace. I say that to every pregnant woman I consult. It's just a precaution. Roslyn nods, only some of her worry subsided. Thank you, Maester Tybalt. He gives her tea that should help with the sickness, and then Roslyn rushes off to actually work on the married cloak. She still has much work to do and the wedding is in 2 days and a wake-up. Sansa is unable to sew with her, as she is going over some last-minute preparations for the Godswood, so Roslyn goes to her chambers to work. She's working on the arrowhead when Rob walks in. He doesn't seem to notice her at first, as he leans his sword against the wall and pulls off his doublet. His body is drenched in sweat. What have you been up to? She asks. Rob turns towards her voice, and smiles when he meets her eyes. Instinctively, Roslyn places a hand on her stomach. She's about to tell him, when she remembers Maester Tybalt's words. She might not even be pregnant. It won't be confirmed for a few days. I took Rickon and the direwolves for a run, Rob tells her. He walks over and leans down to kiss her. Roslyn kisses him back but stops him from leaning down further. You'll get the cloak all sweaty, she tells him. Rob shrugs but stands back up, obliging her. Where's Rickon now? And the wolves? They're with him. Sansa is ordering him a bath. She ordered one for me too, the water should be here soon. Roslyn nods, standing up and folding the cloak and setting it aside. You've got to stop letting him run so wild. He'll be as rowdy as Shagadog if you let him run around with him all of the time. Rob laughs. I'll make sure he spends more time on his lessons when we get back. Perhaps you can teach him some etiquette. Your manners are impeccable, my dear. Roslyn smiles. Just then there's a knock at the door, and 3 servants come in carrying some bath water. Shall we send for a maid to wash you, your grace? One of the servant boys asks. Rob laughs at the idea, but Roslyn finds herself growing jealous. Rob's about to decline when Roslyn beats him to it. I can tend to the king, she says hotly. Rob looks at her curiously, a smirk on his face. The 3 servant boys are quick to leave the room, and the second the door closes, Roslyn pulls Rob to her, kissing him deeply. I thought I was too sweaty, my dear. Rob whispers seductively against her lips. For the cloak, Roslyn shrugs. Not for me. She kisses his neck and begins undoing the buttons of his tunic. Rob's hands are quick to take hold of her waist, before trailing up to the sides of her breasts, he cups them, and she moans against him. Not that I'm complaining, Rob says between kisses. But what has sparked this sudden affection? I missed you, my love, Roslyn says distractedly, as she pulls his shirt off of his shoulders and brings her hands to his breeches. Rob's breath stops, his hands tightening on her. I missed you, too. But we've been parted for longer than that before. And I've never received such a warm welcome. Are you complaining? Do you want me to stop? She challenges, bringing her lips to his chest and peppering it with kisses, sucking his skin here and there. Never, Rob growls. He pulls at the laces on her dress, before pulling her dress off of her. He then lifts her in his arms, wrapping her legs around his waist, and carries her to the tub. Sitting down with her in his lap, Roslyn gasps from the coolness of the water. She had forgotten Rob liked cold baths. Rob laughs against her lips, before resuming kissing her sweetly. Notes: this is one of my longer chapters for the first time in a while, so yay for that. I hope everyone is having a good day. I am. I had a good flow of motivation writing this chapter and the next. Please feel free to leave a comment, I always love to read them. Chapter 11, Theon and Sansa's Wedding. Notes: health complications, vague, but I don't want to give the plot away. See the end of the chapter for more notes. Chapter text. The days pass more or less the same. Roslyn still feels sick in the mornings, but she doesn't mind because it means she's more likely pregnant than not. The thought of carrying a child had been bringing so much joy, she had hardly had time to feel sad anymore. She still did. It felt like she was always thinking of Audrey, or wondering what Oliver was doing at any moment, but now she was happy too. She knew her father would be happy. And she knew Audrey would be happy for her, too. Perhaps, if the child was a girl, she could name her for her sister, if Rob allowed. It pained her that she couldn't tell him, but she knew it was the right thing to wait a little longer. It was getting harder and harder to hide her morning sickness from him, though. Just this morning he had woken when she did, and she had to make up some lousy excuse to run down the hall. But she hadn't gotten her moon's blood this morning, and that was all the confirmation she needed. She was pregnant, and she couldn't be happier. She hadn't been able to take her hand off her stomach the entire morning. Even as she walked the halls to Sansa's room, to help her get ready. She turns down the hall to Sansa's chamber, and nearly runs into Theon. He steps to the side before she can bump into him. He grabs her arms to steady her, when she loses her balance from the surprise of it all. "Lord Greyjoy!" she exclaims. "Forgive me. I hadn't expected you to be here. The fault is mine, Your Grace." He takes her hand and kisses it quickly, giving a low bow, before scurrying off. Roslyn finishes walking to Sansa's chamber, laughing giddily to herself. She knocks on Sansa's door. "Come in," Sansa calls. Roslyn opens the door and steps inside. "I saw Lord Greyjoy in the halls a few minutes ago. He wouldn't have been coming from here now, would he?" she asks, a knowing look on her face. Sansa blushes. "I haven't the slightest clue what you mean." "It's all right," Roslyn laughs, "I won't tell Rob." She hangs Sansa's maiden cloak in the wardrobe, next to her wedding dress. "It's beautiful," Sansa exclaims. The cloak was a shimmering silver that shone brightly in the sunlight. The direwolf sigil was embroidered with dark grey thread on the back of the cloak, and the cloak was lined with wolfskin. Roslyn had left the married cloak with Rob, to give to Theon. Sansa's wedding dress was much more intricate than either cloak. It was snow-white satin, with mid-length puffy sleeves and a long satin train. It had beaded and pearl embroidery all along the rounded neckline and train and skirt. It had taken Sansa more than 3 weeks to finish it, but she was so happy with how it turned out. "As is your dress," Roslyn tells her. "Theon won't be able to take his eyes off of you." Sansa smiles happily at that. Roslyn helps Sansa dress, and then pulls her hair back into a braided bun, before placing a silver and gold tiara on her head. Sansa did Roslyn's hair, pulling it back and securing it with a sapphire pin, to match her wedding ring and her blue dress. Rob and Rickon come knocking on the door at 11 o'clock, just like they said they would the night before. Rob is in a pale blue doublet, matching Roslyn, and Rickon's in a navy one. "Good morning, Sansa," Rickon says, hugging his sister. "Morning, Rick. You look beautiful," Rickon exclaims. "Like a real princess." "She is a real princess," Rob says. "She's a Stark and therefore she's a princess. She'll be a Greyjoy soon." "Yes. But she'll always be a Stark." Sansa smiles at her older brother. And then at her little brother too. Bringing a hand down to ruffle his hair. "Come, Rickon," Roslyn says. "Let's go get the rings and find Theon and his sister. Leave Sansa and Rob to get ready for the ceremony." Roslyn kisses her husband goodbye and then takes Rickon's hand, leading him away. You really do look beautiful, Rob says when they are alone. Mother and father would be proud. Sangza smiles sadly. I wish they could be here. Me too, but they are here in spirit. And I'll do my best to fill father's shoes. Sangza squeezes her brother's hand. I know you will. I just wish you didn't have to. She's on the verge of tears, causing Rob to frown. Hey, he says, wiping a lone tear away, today's a good day. They wouldn't want you to be sad. I know. I know. Sangza takes a deep breath. I really am happy. It just makes me feel guilty to feel happy without them. I know. But finding happiness despite them being gone is the best thing we can do to honor their lives. Sangza looks at her brother. He looks older than she remembered him to be, but not in a bad way. He looks mature. When did you become so wise? I dunno. Rob shrugs. Shall we? He offers her his arm and leads her to the Godswood. Roslin and Rickon grab the rings, and then walk down the halls towards Theon's chambers, but they run into him and Asher on the way. Lord Greyjoy, your grace, Roslin greets them both with a curtsy. She nudges Rickon, who then bows at them. He smiles at Roslin when he stands back up, proud of himself. We were just looking for you. Here are the rings. She holds out a box to Theon, who takes it from her. Thank you, Lady Roslin, Theon tells her. He opens the box and nods appreciatively when he sees them. His was a simple gold band. Sangza's is a real beauty. It's a thin golden band, with a large pearl bordered with small diamonds, looking and shining like the bright sun. This was Mother's. Theon turns to Asher. Yes. Her father gave it to her when she was a teen, apparently. But I hardly remember her wearing it, either. Theon nods again. Thank you for bringing it, he tells his sister. He turns to Lady Roslin. And thanks for holding on to it, too. Of course. Roslin tells him happily. The four of them then walk to the Godswood. They get to the courtyard, where the sapling is planted, and get ready for Rob to walk her down the aisle. Sangza sees Theon standing at the end and smiles at him, her face emulating pure joy. Theon's face matches her own, as he looks back at her with his boyish, toothy grin. Are you nervous? Rob whispers to Sangza, offering her his arm as they ready to walk. No. She tells him happily. I couldn't be more excited. I'm glad, Rob tells her. Rob walks her down the aisle and kisses her forehead when they reach the end. He then hands her off to Theon, and goes to stand next to Asher, Roslin, and Rickon. Theon takes Sangza's hands and they kneel before the heart tree. They say a silent prayer before pledging themselves to one another in simple vows. Sangza goes first. I, Princess Sangza Stark of Winterfell, take this man, Theon Greyjoy, Lord of the Dread Fort, to be my husband. I am his and he is mine, from this day to the end of my days. I, Theon Greyjoy, Lord of the Dread Fort, take Princess Sangza Stark of Winterfell to be my wife. I am hers and she is mine from this day to the end of my days. The two of them look at each other and smile. Then Theon takes off her maiden cloak, handing it off to Asher, and places her new one around her shoulders, securing it gently. They exchange a kiss before the old gods, and they are married. The feast is fun and lively. Theon and Sangza seem endlessly happy with each other, looking like pure embodiments of true love. Roslin can't help but smile at the sight of them. When the dancing begins, Rob is quick to offer her his hand. May I have the honor, my dear? Rob asks sweetly. Roslin places her hand in his and he leads her to the floor. The song is slow, and Roslin is content to simply sway to the beat. Rob can't take his eyes off of her, looking at her so lovingly. She blushes and looks away. You're beautiful, Rob tells her. Stop. Roslin laughs awkwardly, swatting his chest. You're embarrassing me. No one can hear me, Rob laughs. And it's the truth. You've always been beautiful, but something about today, I've never seen you so beautiful. You're glowing. Roslin blushes deeper, and looks over to Sangza and Theon, dancing together happily. Perhaps it's all the love in the air. Roslin suggests, looking at her good sister and her new husband. Perhaps it is, Rob agrees. She looks back at him and finds him gazing at her intently. He smiles, and it's so charming, Roslin almost tells him then. That she's carrying his child. That it's probably the mother's glow everyone talks about at the start of pregnancies. She stops herself, though. Rob dances several dances with her, before calling Rukun over so that he can have a turn with Sangza. Rukun tries to lead Roslyn in the next dance, but the moves are too quick for his short legs, and so they do their own dance, clashing with the music. After a second dance with Rukun, Theon walks over to the two of them. "Perhaps I can have a turn, Rukun," he asks, offering Roslyn his hand. Roslyn takes his arm and he leads her more center in the dance floor. "You'll make Rob jealous," Roslyn says, though she doesn't really mean it. "He's making me jealous," Theon jokes, looking over to where Rob and Sangza are, dancing together for the third time. "He's only dancing with his sister," Roslyn laughs. "As am I," Theon tells her, joining in on the laughter. Roslyn dances 2 dances with Theon, before switching back with Rob. Theon going back to Sangza. They dance so much Roslyn loses count, but after what must have been an hour Roslyn lets Rob sit down with Rukun, knowing he must be exhausted. She walks over to Sangza and Theon, and when the next song starts, Sangza takes Roslyn's hands and pulls her to the dance floor, giving Theon the excuse to go sit with the boys. The 2 girls spin and twirl happily, until Roslyn feels a pain in her side from all the spinning about. Sangza gets a cramp too, and so the girls go sit down. "You'll dance with me next, won't you?" Sangza asks Asha, who is sitting at the table as well. "No, I don't think so." Asha dismisses. Roslyn catches Theon shoot her a look. "One dance, I suppose." Sangza stands up happily, and drags Asha to the dance floor. "I don't know how Sang has so much energy," Rob says. "I'm still out of breath." Rob clutches his side. Seeing him do so makes Roslyn realize just how much pain she's still in. She excuses herself, to go to the chamber pot and freshen up. Something feels off. Wrong. When she gets to the hallway she practically runs to her room. When she gets there, she lifts up her skirt, and screams when she sees the blood running down her leg. She frantically wipes it away. This can't be happening, she thinks to herself. She can't have her moon's blood. She's pregnant. You don't get your moon's blood when you're pregnant. That's what all her sisters told her. It's what Maester Tybalt confirmed just days ago. Unless, she thinks, I'm having a miscarriage. Once the thought comes to her, she knows it must be true. A sob escapes her before she can stop herself. But then she lets her cries overtake her, when she realizes no one will hear her with all the festivities and dancing going on. The blood has continued to trickle down her leg, slowly, and she doesn't bother to wipe it away this time. She sits down and curls into herself, crying louder than she has ever cried before. She can't seem to stop, she cries until the tears outweigh the blood, and then screams and cries some more. "Roslyn!" Rob yells, running into the room. When he spots her crying on the floor he runs over and pulls her into his arms. "What's happened? What's wrong?" Roslyn can't catch her breath enough to answer him. She tries, but it only causes her to cry harder. Rob cradles her to him and rubs soothing circles on her back. "It's all right," he tells her. Deep breath, that's it. After a couple of minutes of following Rob's breaths, she's finally able to stop crying. "What happened?" Rob asks again. Roslyn breathes heavily. "I lost my baby." Notes. Happy Monday. I've been having a good flow of motivation with this story the last few days, so here's a new chapter. I hope everyone has a good day. Sorry this chapter is a bit of a bummer, but I promise it gets better. Roslyn will be happy again soon. Chapter 12, Future Plans. Summary. This chapter starts right after chapter 11, like right in between the dialogue, so you may want to read the last few paragraphs of chapter 11 before reading this. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. Rob looks visibly taken aback. He loosens his grip so he can get a better look at her. "What do you mean?" he asks Roslyn lightly. "I was pregnant. I found out a few days ago. It's why I was sick. But the Maester said to wait to tell people. I guess now I know why." She begins to sob again, but now that she's all out of tears, it just sounds like heavy, broken breaths. But, why didn't you tell me? Rob sounds genuinely heartbroken, making Rosalind feel immensely guilty. The maester said. I don't care what he said. You could have told me and not told anyone else. I'm sorry, Rosalind says between cries. Rob's face immediately softens and he tightens his arms around her once again. I should have told you. I'm sorry you had to find out like this. I was going to tell you when we got back home. I swear it. Her breathing begins to quicken again, and Rob rubs her back. I know you didn't mean anything bad by it. I'm sorry. Just take a deep breath, it's okay. It's not okay. Rosalind practically screams. I lost the baby. You don't know that. Have you seen the maester today? I was bleeding. It's either my moon's blood or a miscarriage, there's nothing he can do. Rosalind says glumly. She has no idea how Rob's remaining so calm, so not worried. She knows the news is fresh to him, of both the pregnancy and the miscarriage, but she thought he'd care more than that. Why aren't you upset? She asks before she can stop herself. Rob looks at her, confused. Why would I be upset? It's no one's fault, and there's nothing we can do. I'll go get the maester, and we'll see what he says. My mother had some bleeding when she was carrying Rukun, and Rukun and my mother were both perfectly healthy in the end. I'm sure you and the baby are too. Rob smiles at her, but the smile is sad and stinging. He's being strong for me, she realizes, hiding his true feelings so I don't get more upset. She hugs him tightly, grateful for his strength. She's certainly lacking some right now. I'll go get the maester, Rob says again, trying to stand up. Rosalind clings to him, not letting go. Please don't leave me, she begs. Rob tucks her hair behind her ear affectionately. He stands up with her in his arms. He carries her to their bed and sets her down, before walking to the door. Rosalind frowns, she had thought he would stay with her. Rob opens the door and speaks to the guard posted outside. Send for the maester, please. What should I tell him? The guard asks. Rob grits his teeth. Just send for him, as soon as possible. The guard nods, and walks away. Rob closes the door and walks back over to her. He climbs into bed and pulls her against him. She burrows into his chest. A few minutes later, there's a knock at the door. Your Graces. Maester Tybalt calls from the other side of the door. May I come in? Yes, Rob says. Rosalind sits up, letting go of Rob. Rob then sits up too and takes her hand in his, kissing it sweetly, and then looking down at their intertwined fingers. Maester Tybalt walks in, carrying a bag of supplies with him. How are you feeling, Your Grace? The old man asks sweetly. Rosalind chokes up, crying again. She had some bleeding, Rob says, as he soothingly traces shapes on her hand. We're worried about the baby. Maester Tybalt nods. How much bleeding? Less than normal if it was my moon's blood, Rosalind finally speaks. It was really light, but it trickled down my leg some. I had to wipe it away twice, but then it seemed done. Maester Tybalt nods again. Might I examine you, Your Grace? Rosalind nods, and sits up more fully, turning towards the maester. The maester examines her quietly, and Rob hovers over the two of them worriedly. Is she all right? Rob asks. We don't know, the baby was a girl, Rosalind tells him sadly. I was asking about you, Rob says, as if it's obvious. He walks back over to her and takes hold of her hand again. Maester Tybalt finishes examining her. I wouldn't be too worried, he says. You are still presenting a lot of other symptoms and signs of pregnancy, and light bleeding is sometimes to be expected in the early stages of pregnancy. I imagine that's all it was. Everything looks fine. So the baby? Rosalind asks, hopefully. As long as there's no more bleeding, the baby is perfectly healthy. A smile breaks out on Rosalind's face, and she clutches her stomach happily. And my wife? Rob asks. She's perfectly healthy too. There's no need to worry, Your Grace. Rob looks to Rosalind, his own smile plastered on his face. He leans down and kisses her sweetly. Thank you, Maester Tybalt. Rosalind says, after she pulls away from Rob. Of course. I'll be going now, but don't hesitate to get me if you need me. Thank you, Rob says. Maester Tybalt leaves and Rob practically tackles her to the bed, kissing her all over. I told you everything was fine, he says between kisses. As long as there's no more bleeding, Roslyn reminds him. There won't be, Rob says, sounding confident. You both will be perfectly fine. I can feel it. Roslyn smiles, his confidence reassuring her. I can feel it, too, Roslyn whispers. Rob smiles at her, before resuming his kisses. After a while, the two get ready for bed. Roslyn takes longer, as she braids her hair back. By the time she gets in bed, Rob's already laying there lazily. She lays on her back, and Rob leans over her, careful to not put any of his weight on her. He pulls up her nightgown until her stomach is revealed, and then peppers her stomach with kisses. The stumble of his beard scratches her lightly, and Roslyn giggles. Ticklish. Rob teases. Maybe a little, Roslyn confesses, blushing. Rob smiles, and kisses her again, until he's gotten a few more giggles out of her. He then readjusts himself so he can lay his head on her, his cheek against her stomach. What do you think it is? Rob asks, curious. I don't know. It's too early to test any old wives' tales. I hope it's a boy though, so that I can give you an heir. She says honestly. We have plenty of time to make an heir, Rob tells her, his tone serious. I don't want you to worry about that. Stress like that can't possibly be good for you or the baby. He kisses her stomach again. I hope it's a girl. Roslyn smiles, and reaches a hand down to her husband's dark curls. A little girl would be nice, she whispers, thinking about it happily. A little girl with Rob's curls and his beautiful blue eyes. Roslyn wouldn't mind that at all. Yes, Rob agrees. A beautiful baby girl who looks just like her mother. Rob says, leaning back next to her and pulling her to him. He kisses her hair. I would want her to look like you, Roslyn confesses. We'll just have to have a lot then. So that at least one can look like each of us, Rob decides. I would like that, Roslyn tells him. To have a lot, she clarifies. We can have as many children as you want, Rob tells her. Whatever makes you happy will make me happy. You don't mean that, Roslyn laughs, pushing against his chest lightly. Yes, Rob says. I do. As many as you want. Not too many, Roslyn tells him. Perhaps 4 or 5. We'll cap it at 6, Rob agrees. Roslyn falls asleep happily, thinking of her and Rob's future children. She feels safer than she ever has, with Rob there next to her, one of his arms wrapped around her and the other resting on her stomach. The next morning, Roslyn wakes and readies for the journey back home. It startles her, how easily she considers Winterfell her home now. It's barely been her home for more than a month. She's dreading the thought of word from Oliver. She had made her brother agree he would only send ravens to Winterfell, to not distract from the wedding, and so she knows that news was waiting for her back home. She doesn't know if the news is good or bad though. When she and Rob are dressed and packed, they grab Rickon and meet Sansa and Theon for breakfast in Theon's solar. Sansa had requested a small, quiet, family meal before they all returned home. The only ones present are Roslyn, the Stark siblings, and the Greyjoy siblings. Rickon is quiet almost the entire breakfast, clearly sad to say goodbye to Sansa and Theon. He sits in Sansa's lap, and lets her fuss over him the entire time, but he doesn't say anything. Theon, Rob, and Asher are deep in conversation, while Sansa and Roslyn talk about their sewing. I had to put it on pause when I made your cloaks, but I'm nearly done with Rickon's quilt. Roslyn tells her good sister. I'll have to start another one soon for the baby, but she can't talk about that yet. Jon. Sansa laughs lightly at that. Did Jon ask for a quilt? No. But I figured it's only fair. I've made things for you, Rob, and Rickon, after all. Can't forget about him. Now that she says it, she realizes it's true. I guess I have to make 2 more quilts, she thinks to herself. She smiles at the thought, and absent-mindedly touches her stomach. Sansa catches her do this, and gives her a quizzical look, but doesn't say anything. When breakfast is done, the 6 of them all head outside, ready to go their separate ways. Rickon starts to pout at this, pulling on Sansa's skirt and begging her to come back to Winterfell with them. Theon can come to Rukun reasons. Winterfell is his home, too. The Dread Fort is their home now, Robb says softly. He crouches down to Rukun's level and grabs his hands. Don't make this hard on Sansa, he whispers to his brother. The more you complain, the more likely she is to cry. Rukun looks up at Sansa suspiciously. Sansa is already having a very hard time holding back tears, as she leans on Theon for support. Rukun nods to Robb. Okay, he whispers back. Robb stands up and then Rukun grabs Theon and Sansa's hands, leading the way to the group of Ironborn, so they can send Asha off first. They get to the men, and Roslyn pulls Rukun to the side, so Asha can say goodbye. Asha hugs Sansa first. It was a pleasure to meet you, Sister Asha says. You as well, Asha. I think we'll be good friends. Asha nods, before walking to Theon. She pulls her brother into a bear hug. I like her, she tells Theon, loud enough for all to hear. She'll keep you in line. Theon clearly doesn't know what to say to that, he just hugs his sister a little tighter. Goodbye, little brother. Don't be a stranger. At that, Asha climbs on her horse and begins to ride off, towards her ships, her men following behind. Rukun runs after them for a while, waving, Greywind and Shagadog on his heels. With Rukun preoccupied, Robb turns to Sansa to say goodbye. He reaches his arms out and Sansa walks right into them, resting her head on his shoulder. Promise me you'll write once a week, Sansa asks. Sure, Sang. I mean it. Roslyn writes to me weekly, but you only wrote to me twice in the last month. Sansa looks over to Roslyn while still clinging to Robb. Make sure he writes, please. Of course, Sansa. Roslyn says, smiling at her sister. Robb whispers something to Sansa that no one else can hear, before kissing her forehead and stepping away, turning to Theon. Sansa pulls Roslyn into a hug before Roslyn can even think to walk over to her. I'm glad Robbie has you. Sansa whispers to her. And that I have you. I'm sorry about Audrey. And Wyler and Walder too. Roslyn pulls back and looks at her confused and worried. Robb told me this morning, before breakfast. Sansa hugs her again. I still have Asha, and you still have Minnie, as well as your other siblings. But I lost Arya, and you lost Audrey. We can be each other's sisters. I'd like that, Roslyn says, and she means it. Rukun comes running back over, out of breath, and Theon picks him up and throws him in the air. Keep practicing your archery, Theon tells him. And when I see you next you'll be better than Robb. Really? Rukun asks excitedly. Yes. Robb's dreadful with a bow. I'm not that bad, Robb argues. It's okay, Robbie, Sansa tells him. You're better with a sword. Better than Theon. Sansa rolls her eyes and laughs. Better than Theon, she agrees honestly. Sansa does cry when she has to hug Rukun goodbye, causing Rukun to cry too. Theon solves the situation by suggesting that Rukun can stay with them for the summer, pleasing both Sansa and Rukun. Then the time comes to leave, and after one more round of hugs, Roslyn walks over to the wheelhouse. Robb insisted she take the wheelhouse home for safety, and Roslyn was quick to agree. But Sansa knew that Roslyn rode a horse to the Dread Fort, and so the sight of the wheelhouse seems to confirm her suspicions. Sansa walks over and leans in the window. Sisters don't keep secrets, Sansa says, grinning. Is there something you want to tell me? Roslyn smiles. It's still early, so don't get your hopes up. But you are to be an aunt within the year. Sansa shrieks with happiness, causing Theon, Robb, and Sir Roderick all to rush over, but Sansa shoos them away. She climbs into the wheelhouse and sits next to Roslyn, taking her hands in her own. Do you mean it? She asks excitedly. Yes. It's a wedding night, babe. Perhaps you're carrying one too. Roslyn tells her. Sansa looks down at her stomach and smiles. I don't know about that. Maybe. Does Robb know? Yes. Sansa hugs Roslyn tightly. I'm so happy for you both. Thank you, Sansa. Roslyn says. She hesitates before asking her next question. I was wondering, if it's a girl, I want to name her for Audrey. Or perhaps my mother. But if it's a boy, could I name him Eddard? After your father. I know it would mean a lot to Robb. But if you want to use the name I can think of something else. Sansa smiles at her. Eddard is a Stark name, you can keep it. But save Catelyn for me, please. That way Robb and I can each name a child after our parents. It's a deal. Roslyn agrees. Roslyn was growing restless in the wheelhouse. They were 4 hours into the journey, and she had been sewing the whole time, but bumps on the road kept messing up her stitches and caused her to feel nauseous, so she had taken to laying down on the seat,